All right. Well, we got tickets. We got something to go. You know, we got something to dress up in. Guess the only other thing we need is someone to go with. I mean, I didn't get a chance to ask anyone. Katie, do you think you could see if Violet wants to go with me?
G'day and welcome to Stream of Chaos. My name is Dave and I'll be your keeper of arcane lore for this session of Call of Cthulhu. Today we are continuing chapter 2 of A Time to Harvest. You can get your own copy of this fantastic campaign from chaosium.com. All the previous episodes of this playthrough, all 13 of them at this point, are available on the Chaosium YouTube channel, and if you're watching there and you want to join us live, we stream each week at Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific on the Chaosium Twitch channel. I'd also like to thank Roll20 and Sirenscape for being great tools which we use to improve our games. And without further ado, let's return to the story. So last session, our groups were pretty much split up for the entirety of it. We ran two sessions really, and I remember with panic, James suggesting that Katie and Joe split up at one point, and we would have had 3 for the whole thing. But we cut it down to 2. That was good. So Seb and Chaz went to go seek out Robert Blaine and were promptly grabbed by the Irish Mafia, since they were on Italian Mafia territory. They had a chance to speak with Robert. They also caught up again with Harry Higgins, their friend from school. And Robert Blaine was dealt with, shall we say. That line's kind of resolved. Meanwhile, Katie and Joe went to seek out the library. They spotted Professor Roger Harold, their history professor, snooping around the rare book section, and then they went to speak with Professor Albert Wilmarth, who teaches literature and apparently has some connections with these creatures that have been seen. They learned that they have a few names for these monstrosities. They are called the fungi from Yuggoth or the Mi-Go, and this appears to be the enemy, their adversary that they face. Armed with this new information, the 4 students investigators reconvened on the campus quad late at night as the buildings are beginning to darken and dim. The car with the Irish gangster drives away. The 4 regather and they begin to head off across the lawn towards the Orn Library. I'll get each of you to introduce your investigators, and once more, this is late at night. Say how you're looking and what you're looking forward to. I know Joe is very determined to spend the whole night up doing whatever needs to be done given their recent bout, but the rest of you might be more eager to get some rest, get to sleep. We'll see how you go. Art, why don't you begin introducing Sebastian?
Hey, I'm Art and I am playing Sebastian McCarthy. What can I say about Seb that I haven't already said about Seb? Seb is moneyed.
Nice.
Seb is injured.
Nice.
And Seb is very done with the shit. Seb is a young man in his early-ish 20s, very well-dressed, currently leaning heavily on a silver-topped black cane, and I believe is being supported on the arm of his companion, acquaintance, Chaz.
Oh,
Seb does not have friends. We've established Seb doesn't have friends. He has acquaintances. Friends just get you into trouble. I think that's kind of all. He looks perfectly normal, if weary.
Yeah. I mean, you sustained some fairly rigorous damage recently, and then spend a lot of it with a bag over your head in the back of a car. So, that'll do it for you. So I guess with Sebastian leaning on Chaz's shoulder, let's meet Jackson next, playing Chaz Dedrick.
Hey, that's me. I'm playing Chaz Dedrick. Chaz Dedrick, a beefy young man of considerable bulk, who's just here to have a good time. He doesn't fully understand what's going on, but that's okay. If someone points at something and says, lift that, and someone points at someone and says, punch them, then he can manage that. That's all that matters.
Yeah, you say you don't really know what's going on. How far do you think that excuse is going to carry you? Because, I mean, recently you handed Robert Blaine over to the Irish Mafia. They made a number of threatening gestures and declarations. And then you seem to be surprised when he was taken away and you will never see him again.
Yeah, no, they're gonna kill him. Everyone just speaks a little bit too quickly and a little bit too, under the rug for Chaz's tastes.
Is Chaz an optimist? Does he genuinely just think the best will happen? Because I don't think he's just not overly stupid, is he? It's just optimism, right?
Yeah. Optimism is
naivety?
assuming everything's gonna work out. It's optimism in the sense that everything's worked out for him so far.
Yeah.
Doesn't consider things are going to go wrong.
Yeah, I think that's kind of interesting. Given everything that's happened, he's kind of still holding on to the idea that, well, that's behind us now. It's got to get better from here, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right, Chaz Dedrick, strong man and optimist. All right, next, James, you want to introduce Katie?
Fantastic. Yes, I am James, and I am playing Katie Wilkes, the bookworm, the nerd, the haunt of the library, the relatively kind of skinny, mousy-haired woman. I would be currently attempting to help my companion in the similar way to how Chaz is, helping his. Unfortunately, she is a lot bigger than me and would crush me if I tried. I am a little tense and focused. I've had some brushes with insanity, but I feel much better, thank you very much, and I am determined to prove that I am not crazy. And God willing, and with enough access to these strange books that we're hopefully going to get our hands on, I'll be able to do so.
That's all good. You had a recent discussion with Professor Albert Wilmarth, who said some fairly interesting things about, reality and what lies beyond the veil. How much weight are you giving what he said? Are you taking it at face value for the time being, or is this all pocketed away with the intent to do some more research of your own?
That's interesting. I think that there's a different way that you can approach wanting to dive into the Cthulhu mythos and knowledge. I think that some characters can jump in wanting to really get spells and get access to magic and, understand it. And I think you can also come in with a kind of almost scientific curiosity, or at least that's how I think Katie's approaching it. She definitely believes it. She's seen weird things. It was so early on in the first or second session that her mind was, almost possessed, and she saw strange things out in the woods. She's been exposed to, true creatures from the moment to go, and she's always known that she was right, that this stuff is real. If what was told to her was wrong or crazy in any way, that's because it was someone else's imperfect understanding, not because what was being said was untrue.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, interesting. Well, you've got some more research you can do in the library. Let's next meet Alex playing Joe.
Hi, I'm Alex, and I'm playing Josephine Johnston, or Jo, who is very tall, athletic young woman, assertive to the point of being aggressive. And at this point in the narrative, she is channeling all of that into avenging the horrible fate of her best friend, John Jeffries, who was taken by these things and had some changes made to him, which ultimately rendered him unable to continue living after Joe shot him in the face. It's not going well for Jo. She's hanging on by a thread at this point. She can hear him, John, speaking to her quite regularly. I believe I'm still in indefinite bout of insanity at this point. Which is super fun. Also got hit by a car, sort of. Things are not going super well for Jo, but she's determined and doesn't really give up. So it's fine. It's fine. Push it down deep.
Deal with it later. When you hear John talking to you, is it a voice in the back of your head, or does it sound like there's someone actually standing alongside the group, like another one of your peers?
It sounds like he's standing behind her, like behind and to the side, just a little bit, always just out of your peripheral vision, but they're definitely there. It's not in her head. There's no way this is in her head. This is real.
Hell yeah. Awesome.
I mean, the other thing she's seen that also happened to be real, why wouldn't this be real also?
It completely makes sense. But given what you've seen in the last few days, if anything, it's the more normal of the set. All right, so as the four of you begin to head across the library towards, across the quad towards the Orn Library, you can see darkness has fallen over the campus. There's a couple of isolated lampposts, but they don't do enough to fill the void between them, and students walk between spheres of light and then are swallowed by darkness as they go about their business. The dorms appear to be busy. You can see that there are lights on all levels as the East and West men's dormitories, and there's a group of students standing away from them on the quad, gathered around, sort of watching events, and you can see cast across the two front faces are the red and blue of police lights as an investigation is underway inside. Unless you choose to approach, you can skirt around it easily enough. The Orn Library is further away. The Robert Carter Memorial Hall, where the dance is going to be held, is similarly illuminated, although with more traditional colors. And there are the students of the, what's it called, cheer committee? Something like that. The people that like organize all the like school upsmanship, and they're going about with streamers and things and setting everything else up, and also carting in massive bags of like false snow and things to fill the interior. Finally, the Orn Library itself is dark. It's this huge Gothic structure with massive pillars out the front and a small pool of hedges where previously Chaz hid in the shadows to just stalk Laszlo as he made his exit. There are no lights on that you can see except for two front globes which illuminate the staircase up. What do the four of you want to do?
Well, I guess we go in, we be quick, we be direct, we head straight to Armitage, we explain what happened. You know, maybe Armitage is a little more contained, a little less nervous. He'll be able to show us right what we need, and if there's anyone around, we just try and avoid them. The last thing we want to do is get caught either by the, university authorities or by any of the watchers.
Yeah, we don't want to be caught here where I'm probably not supposed to be here after losing two of the university's rifles, and points to Chaz. He is definitely not meant to be here.
I think at this stage, it's we're all a little bit fraught. Okay, well.
I thought you were going to say something else there for a minute, Katie, and I would have been very proud. so good, I broke character. Oh dear. All right. Yes. All right. Let's go. Straight up, through to Armitage. If things go wrong, we rally back at Seb's place, right? Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
Okay.
We bolt. We run.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, they'll run. We'll shuffle.
Maybe we can draw their attention. That, I mean, won't end well, but okay. Look, for now,
Well, I could do that.
I'm sure you could. I guess we head up and try and head straight into Armitage.
Yeah.
Dave, just to clarify,
Sure.
where did you say the police were? Outside the dormitories?
Inspecting the East and West dormitories, yep.
That would make sense.
Shuffle around that.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
All right. You'll head up towards the Orn Library, and as you approach, again, lights off inside, doesn't look like any students are allowed in. It'd be about 10 p.m. now. From your previous studies, you'd know that the library closes at 9. Students, if they have special permissions, can be allowed to stay in and read late. And this is typically when the librarians and the staff would go through checkbooks and reorder everything. There should still be people operating inside. And as you approach, you can see, although like blinds have been drawn, there are a couple of lights on interior. There are people still working there. It's just closed to students. You head up the stairs, these huge marble platforms, and approach the heavy wooden door. There is a small bell, or like a hammer that you can knock with, and unless you do anything else, you can wait for someone to come and let you in. There's a pause for a bit. A few beats pass, and then you can hear footsteps as the interior door is opened, closed, and then someone walks down that first corridor with all the statues, the busts of famous literature figures. When the door opens, it's one of the older women who run the interior. She looks out towards you and says, I'm sorry, dears, the library's closed for the evening. You'll have to come back tomorrow.
We have special instructions to deliver a message in person to Dr. Armitage. It's from one of the professors.
Just to deliver a message, I can take it up to him.
I'm afraid that we were explicitly told to deliver it in person, and it's quite urgent.
From which professor?
From Professor
Wilmoth.
Wilmoth, okay. Let me speak with him briefly. Can this wait until morning?
No.
Please tell him it's a matter quite beyond life and death.
All right, dear. You just wait here. I'll come down in a moment. You could make a roll to try and get inside and wait, but otherwise she's happy to deliver the message to him. She won't take the note. She'll just go and talk to Armitage. Is that all you want? Yep, easy. She walks past, and for a moment you can see the interior. That large column is much more ominous in the dark and in the night. All of the busts look like figures of these huge stone heads looking down at the person on the floor, and you can also just barely make out the shape of the mastiff Napoleon who watches the corridor. And in the darkness, you could swear he's gotten bigger. He's huge, and he's standing between two of the columns, and he watches the teacher go, the librarian go past, and he swings his head to look at the door, and as it's shifting closed, you can see his eyes like two huge globes of reflected light, and he lets out this low belly rumbling growl as the door closes, if he doesn't recognize any of you, even those of you that have given him treats in the past. The door clicks closed, and you have a moment to yourselves. Do you want to say anything?
I was about to test that. Yeah, yes.
Katie, did she sound the way that she normally sounds?
I think so. I mean, I didn't hear any buzzing, and
okay.
I guess...
Trust no one.
Okay, all right. Trust nobody. I mean, except each other. And okay.
Well,
Yeah, well, I was thinking about that. How do we know, right? If we're gonna
Buzzing.
split up, I mean, we were splitting up earlier today. How do we know that we're not one of the tree monsters?
I guess that's a pretty good point. Well,
We just shouldn't split up again?
I don't think that's practical.
No.
well, when we've seen that when these things act, there's at least some kind of personality change. If anyone's behaving particularly strangely, I guess that might be a sign. Has anyone noticed any abnormal behavior, beyond the usual levels of normal?
All kind of... We're all going a little bit loopy here, right? Like this,
Yeah, I
except
guess
Seth,
so.
like...
Maybe that wasn't the best tactic. Okay. I mean, I don't know. I guess...
Can we come up with a code word now? I mean, if we can trust each other now.
All right.
well, that assumes that whatever gets into these people's heads does not have access to any of their memories or information
Yeah.
that they know.
Which seems unlikely.
Well, it's hard to know.
Genuinely, so you guys can make a couple of rolls. One of you could try and roll psychology on the woman who came and gone. You have met with her previously, and you could try and see if there's a different vibe. The dog would be something different, something like natural world or a similar skill. And finally, thinking back, who's interacted? I actually think Chaz. Can you make an intelligence test, please?
No.
But you never ask.
You shouldn't have ever asked.
Sorry, hopes you'd never asked.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that's worth 19 points of luck because I got 20.
It's nothing major.
Nope, who can say? Yeah, because I had a good chat with Block out in the field.
Actually, yeah.
Well, I'm trying to remember back to that conversation. His personality was certainly different, but
He was completely opposite to how he used to be. Like,
but there was nothing to suggest he didn't have his memories.
Well,
was there?
he did say he didn't know you.
Did he?
yeah. He was like, yeah, and he said it to me as well. It was like, I don't know who you are, and I was like, yes, you do. Like, with you, like, 2 out of about 4 students on an athletic scholarship, we know each other.
People are watching the YouTube, so I gotta get in on that.
Does anyone want to
also-
try psychology or a similar role?
I'll try psychology.
Can somebody check if the dog's okay?
Oh, I don't think we need to roll for that one.
I think that dog is very okay. I think that anyone who crosses that dog is really not okay. I think that
Yeah.
dog is
I agree.
fine.
I agree.
So Katie, with the psychology, she seems to be actually very much similar to how she's acted previously. No real difference. You expect it's the same woman you've spoken to previously.
If the strange buzzing rises in the library, it will be summarily shh down in Johnny.
I will say that they did, like, some of them have changed accents, so that does to me suggest that they may hold more of the personality of the person that they were than the person that they're riding, as it were. That said, I still am not entirely convinced that a code word couldn't hurt, but I'm not sure it's something we should rely on in and of itself.
I agree.
I think the biggest thing is that Block was also, by all reports, a lot worse on the football field, right? If people lose
yeah,
what they
he was
could
crap.
do, can't do the same things, you know? For Joe and Chaz, that works particularly well, and I think you're a good boxer too, right, Seb? Maybe that's a good test point. Unfortunately, if they're infiltrating academics, then my skill set's relatively easy to fake. But I'm meant to start.
I mean, my best skill is being personable and,
Is it though? Oh, with people who aren't us, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah, no, but I like it. I think you're onto something there. If
Yeah.
I can't knock a Joker out with one punch, it ain't me.
Hell yes.
Okay,
Awesome.
well, if we get into a fight with you and you are able to hurt us, then we know.
If
it's you.
Katie can win a boxing match against you, Chaz, something's wrong with one of you.
Yeah, that seems.
I like that. I like that.
Insert Spider-Man meme.
Alright, you hear the door inside open once more, and footsteps approaching. When it opens again, the woman looks out, and she looks a little... You succeeded the psychology roll earlier, so she looks a little, not surprised, but like, this is non-standard. So she goes, Dr. Armitage would like to speak to the four of you if you'd follow closely behind me. Please don't touch any of the books, we're still organizing things, and don't speak with anyone, they're just doing their job. Come with me. She opens the door wide, and as she goes past, she puts out a hand and goes, "Still, Napoleon." And he shuffles back a bit to the darkness, and none of the lights are on him. He's just this huge black figure amongst the marble busts. You walk through them, and then the door opens into the library. It's this huge multi-floored building with a huge vacuum in the middle, so that the stacks of books can actually rise up through the center, and they have to take these huge ladders along them to fetch some of the harder to access tomes. And currently you can see moving, there's no main lights on, but moving through the pillars like ghosts are the librarians and their assistants, who walk with isolated lanterns to inspect the books and put them back in their orderly position, all of them moving silently like wraiths in the library.
Just described my happy place.
The librarian walks you towards the stairs, and you begin to go up and around them, walking in single file. She occasionally looks back to make sure that you're all still with her. Do any of you do anything as you approach? You're heading up the first stairs and up to the second towards Dr. Armitage's offices. Okay.
I think I'm pretty quiet, just trying to move through as quickly as possible.
Mad. You head towards the Armitage's, and it's one of the only ones with a dedicated light on. And the librarian raps a moment, The door opens, she steps to the side. She says, "These are the students who wanted to speak with you." He looks down at you. He's again a very well-dressed older professor, clean mustache, and still really fit as well. You can see he's like rolled up his sleeves a bit as he's working late, and he's got decent muscle there. He looks down at all of you and he says, "Why don't the four of you come inside and we can talk about this privately then? Thank you, Miss Lauren. Please have a seat." He offers the four of you inside. It's a well-kept library, not ostentatious, but still grand. I don't know if that makes sense. Like it's got a lot of like fine, like heavy oak things, but it's not flashy about it. It's just everything in here is quality. The pen on his desk is very nice, probably gifted from somewhere afar, and you can see the few choice trinkets that he decorates the place with have real historical value. They're not just kitsch. He seats himself on the back in a high leather chair, and there's like a couch and a couple of chairs that the four of you can rearrange on the other side of the desk to face him. As he sits down and wraps his knuckles on the table, you can't help but notice that he wears the same ring that Wilmarth was carefully hiding, almost brazenly, on his middle finger.
Nice.
Jim, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was just thinking that description you gave of the room, the sort of quality, not ostentatious. It's the very kind of old money description that Seb has given, I think, of a lot of places in his place.
I think there's probably like a little bit of a similarity to your father's office, more so than your uncle's. I think your uncle does go a little bit towards the new and the modern, whereas your father has very much, that, like, yes, kind of a similar vibe.
Father and mother. They're both
yes, and mother, of
pretty. They are both doctors of of different schools, and are both.
Yeah, absolutely. And you almost have like a memory to like speaking with them when you were younger. He sits across from you, but there's no hostility, and he seems to be meeting each of your eyes as peers rather than students, especially this late in the evening. He sits down and says, "I understand Professor Wilmarth wanted you to deliver a message to me."
I'm not going to sit down. I'm going to stand by the door when it's closed, and I'm just going to listen out.
Okay, all right. You can hear the librarian, Miss Lauren, walk away, and as you're sitting there, you can occasionally hear shuffling footsteps as one of the librarians moves past. One in particular is an older, hunched-over man, not carrying a lantern, who shuffles his feet across the floor, not picking them up, with tall stacks of books, making his way along the upper sections, seemingly just moving without the aid of sight. The other three of you sit there.
I will take one of the singular chairs, hopefully the most comfortable and with a back.
Okay.
And I will sort of sink into it, and
I want to stand.
Okay. Do you want to stand next to a heavy object in clubbing size?
Yeah, is it like a
Yeah.
like a hefty kind of globe? That's
Yeah,
what I want.
definitely. Do you have that?
Something
Yeah.
goes down. I want to smash a globe into
Paperweight.
something. That'd be rad.
like a
Awesome.
real nice hefty paperweight.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, you stand next to it. It's if you club them, it's gonna friggin' hurt. It's round on the globe and it's got sharp edges on the bottom as well. A real bludgeoning instrument. Okay, so two standing. Katie.
That's it. Yep.
Okay. Who responds to him?
Unless someone else jumps in, I'll lean forward. So, Doctor, yes. I think it's better if you just read the note. We've been looking into things, and there are the things we looked into. They led to people who are in your library, and they're not looking into those things for good reasons.
He nods and pulls out a small letter opener. Breaks the seal cleanly and then unfolds it. It's not a long note, and he skims it quickly, and then closes it up and says, "Well, Professor Wilmarth believes what you were saying, and I'm inclined to believe him. He's had experiences, and he has his own personal demons that he seems to believe you are now involved with as well."
They're not so much his personal anymore, as you suspected. We don't know how much time we have, and there's information in this library that other forces have been trying to get for a long time. I think that you had an argument earlier today with one such force, didn't you? I saw you weren't so happy with what was happening in one of your reading rooms.
Speaking about Professor Harold.
Yeah, well, I guess so.
I'll admit he's acting strange, and I'll admit he's made some suggestions of other students who should have access to tomes that they have no reason to be reading. I value Professor Wilmarth's opinion, and I respect the seal that he's granted to you, but understand this is my library, and I protect what's inside it. It'll be my decision what you have access to. I'll reward trust with trust. Tell me what you need, tell me what you've seen, and understand I've seen plenty in my past as well. I'll believe you, as long as it's true. And then I'll decide what you should have access to. He sits back and seems to be settling in for a tale of whatever length it takes. You get the impression he'll, if he needs to sit there all night, he'll do so. How do you respond? What do you tell him?
I'll glance left and right at the others, see if any of them are about to jump in.
Additionally, if any of you want to try psychology or get a read on the room or anything, like, what are you guys doing? If one of you's talking, the others can be like, you can try it. So just like have a little snoop at some of his letters or things. You can try and get a read on the man. He seems to wear a lot of it on his sleeve. He's kind of got that like confidence of it's in his domain and he doesn't have to hide, but who knows if that's a facade.
If Joe's listening at the door, Chaz
I'm
might
listening.
keep an eye on the window.
Oh yeah,
If there's
definitely.
anyone running around outside.
Okay.
Just some
police.
low-level paranoia.
Large things buzzing, bursting through it.
Okay, so Chaz is looking out the window, sort of like half listening to the conversation as Joe leans against the door and listens to the shuffling of footsteps going past and the occasional creak of the old wooden building, or marble really, shifting in its foundations. Seb and Katie?
If the sort of general vibe is that we are waiting, I am going to unload this guy. I have been building up, and I've been mentioning my journal all the time that I've been going through with research, documents, and everything. I'm going to put this guy to shame. He thinks he knows what's going on. I'll show you, and I will go through everything in minute detail, from all the conspiracies, the weird deaths in Cobb's Corners, how that was linked, the photographic evidence that was produced, the old cave drawings, going through into the fungi from Yuggoth, the Migo. I'll go through the experiments that were being done on John Jeffries, the links to Blaine, oil and chemical, everything. I will lay it all out on the table.
Awesome.
Best I can.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Katie's
It's
gonna be
partly catching Armitage up in the investigation, and partly just a therapy session for Katie.
I think that there's also,
Unloading.
an element of this is somebody who finally is giving Katie a chance to prove herself, that she's not crazy, and prove herself in her domain as well. Like, I think there's a little bit of ego here. There's a you want evidence, I've got it. You're the gatekeeper of all this knowledge. Well, so am I. Here's all my information.
awesome.
Katie,
I love it.
as always, is still looking for top marks.
Yeah, generally. Seb, lastly, how are you conducting this interview or this discussion?
Seb is quiet for Seb.
Mm-hmm.
He will interject, essentially remind Katie, interject elements, will talk about, the research into missing organs, the extraterrestrial nature of the substance, like sort of if there's something that could require an element of clarifying, Seb will interject a word, a short phrase, but otherwise he stays relatively quiet and just observes Armitage.
Mm-hmm.
Just, okay. I guess, yes, getting a read on like him. It's not narratively that's what he's doing. Whether it actually needs a role, I don't know, but it's just he's watching Armitage because this is someone who is part of the university, is also probably part of a very similar social class, and he's just Seb is going into what I like to refer to as shark mode.
Hell yeah. All right. So as Katie begins to talk, going all the way back to the beginning, when actually even before you departed with the previous expedition that John, Jeffrey, Daphne Devine, and the other ones went missing on, then through that into your journey into Cobb's Corners, the strange things you saw there, the suspicion of cult activity in the region, and some of the figures that you met, the storm and the voices that you heard, then back to the university, the charges leveled against Chaz and who may have been behind some of them, and then your recent events looking into these missing students who have returned. You name each of them, James, and state your proof.
I go through the whole bit. I really do. I go through everything in detail. I name everybody, and I think there's even at one point like I just because I'll throw it out there. Might damage our cause or whatever. I'll get to a point and then and I tore a book. I'm sorry. I didn't know what to do. I panicked and I just it came over me and I had to.
I think genuinely that probably. I think you can also he senses not as maybe a bit of a kindred spirit in the importance of. Of books, and it was a last resort and you only did it because you really thought you had to. So if anything, it gives weight to how serious things are. You continue to talk and you get through to the most recent event, speaking with Professor Wilmarth. Chaz and Seb, who's not here at the moment, do you mention what happened with Blaine and where you've been most recently, like earlier today? Are you willing to share that with him? Katie seems to be trusting him. We can park it and see if Seb wants to.
Man killed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would avoid that.
Yeah. No. Yeah, that's fine. No,
Okay.
No,
Yep.
Yeah.
All good. Okay. This takes a while. You all settle in and hours pass. It's late, you've been up for a while, and although you should be tired, you aren't. The energy of the area and the sort of the rhythm of it, this chance for things to really progress is almost intoxicating. And as the night draws longer, you look out keenly. First of all, Chaz, can you please make a spot hidden roll? You're going to get information regardless, but this is just for if you can notice anything in particular. And Joe, can you please make a listen roll?
Do you need any kind of roll for me for talking
Not
to
yet.
Armitage?
Yes, I will. We're going to do that last, though.
Great.
Nice, Chaz. Check it.
Oh!
That was unexpected.
Well done.
I am going to use 2 points to get a hard on this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. May as well.
That will factor. There's a bump for hard. So we're gonna do this. It's gonna be kind of circular. I'm gonna give Joe something, then I'm gonna come back to it. Joe, first of all, from outside, there doesn't appear to be anyone else in the library, like that snuck in or anything. You hear the librarians continuing their business, going about in circles, and they seem to be there long into the night. They slowly, one by one, they will begin to filter and leave, but there's some that remain. In particular, the man who was going back and forth on this highest level, very crooked, appears to be staying and shows no signs of leaving. You also don't remember seeing this person during the day, so it's possible he only operates at night and it will be here the whole time. Secondly, you also hear occasionally from downstairs on the edge of your hearing, Napoleon growling at something away. He only seems to do it at key moments. He never barks, but he has like a low emanating growl that almost like fills the room and alerts everything inside. And he seems to be doing it maybe not on the hour, but like 45 minutes, half an hour will pass before you'll hear it again, and it doesn't seem to coincide with the staff leaving. It seems to be tied to something else that isn't immediately apparent. Back to Chaz, you watch outside and you can see some students coming and going. You'll watch people like begin to pass and head towards just their events for the evening, and then begin to start coming home. The investigation wraps up over at the dormitories, and you can see the police begin to leave. One thing you notice is they spoke to that student that let Seb and you into the building, and you could see in particular, you can see Detective Harding, the man assigned to your case, appears to be heading this investigation. He is in charge of whatever is happening. And by the photo that he's produced it is pointing to it, sometimes you're pretty sure they're looking for you and or Seb. Additionally, everyone begins to go. You can see all the lower like, you know, just the coppers begin to head away, but he remains for a bit longer. And as students are allowed back into the dormitories, he sits on a bench, almost in shadows, not completely hidden, watching the entrance and exit for a time, as if possibly waiting for you to make a return and just to see if anyone comes. But he's not fully hidden. Then, towards the end of, as the hour draws late and as Katie's beginning to finish her story, he checks a watch, steps up, and heads towards the street where you can barely make it out. You have to like put your head to the glass almost to like get the angle. These windows don't open, but he seems to be heading to a car that's pulled up just on the edge of your vision. He gets there, it's just hard to make out. Door opens, he steps inside, and he drives away. He got picked up by someone. It wasn't a cop car.
Was it Higgins' car?
You don't know.
Not Higgins.
Unfortunately, you don't. Yeah. Gibbons. Unfortunately, you can't confirm. It seems to go back the way it came, and you're just unable to see it. But he met with someone late at night.
An extreme, Dave.
Unfortunately, just can't see it.
Oof.
That's hilarious. All this intense discussion about the investigation behind me, and Chaz is just at the window.
Next, going back to Joe, you're listening out for the people coming and going behind. You hear the low rumble for a bit, and then you begin to, like, the night goes on, and you're pretty tired, but there's that like voice. You hear Jeffrey's occasionally, and then even Jeffrey's begins to fade away to just sort of like droning in the background, and then suddenly you have like an almost, it's not sudden, sorry. It's gradual to the point that you might have slipped into dream, like when that barrier is kind of permeable and hard to tell where you are. Everything fades away, and you think you can hear on the very edge of your hearing like a whisper of something, a voice almost, it's vaguely familiar, and it's saying, soon, meet Harold, tomorrow, prepare. And it's like repeating, and it's more vibes being carried through than anything else. As you're doing it, Jeffrey sort of fades away, and then you sort of begin to come back to it. It's like you sort of just, you're honestly not sure if it really happened or if you just, like, you're in a bit of a shaky state, if you hallucinated it. As this comes back, Seb, I asked if you and Chaz, so Katie gets to the point where she's telling about what happened just earlier today, and Chaz did not talk about the mafia thing with the Irish mafia and the fact that Blaine was handed over to them, doesn't want to share the information. Do you step in, or does this kind of get, because again, like you said, you do kind of send a person to die. Do you share what happened? Chaz appears to not want to.
Chaz declines to.
Yes, that's also.
Have we been asked, or is this more like in addition to Katie's tale?
Well, Katie's spilling everything, but
Yes.
you know, she can't talk about what we did today.
The doctor, Armitage does listen. He does ask clarifying questions when, like, it seems like something got kind of like you know, like you missed, or like, you know, because again, it's you're going back. You're prepared for an explanation, but it's a lot of information. So he asks questions to bring things back on track and to ask, you know, was there more to that, or do you not know yet? And when you get to the answer today, there is a noticeable absence, and so far you've been pretty transparent. Katie and Joe went to do this, and Katie says Seb and Chaz went to go meet with Blaine, and then we don't know what happened from there. So he will look to you, kind of expecting you to fill in that portion of the story. So yes, you have been asked.
Okay. Seb, if Armitage looks at Seb, after, like, you know, we went to meet with Blaine, will relay that Blaine was not Blaine was drunk. Was not particularly forthcoming with any important information, but it does appear that this started with Daphne Devine, and the 3 students that returned at the first expedition. It's not clear whether Harold was a part of, like, knew what they were doing yet or not. But past that, he will relay any information that Blaine gave them. But unless he is specifically asked, that's where he leaves it. He's like, we met Blaine, he was drunk, this is what he told us.
He will probably ask, where is Blaine now? Is he with you? Because last he was talking, it was you going to fetch him.
Blaine is not with us anymore.
Okay.
It's
It's clear
no
that
longer with us.
it becomes clear that you're hiding a level of information. Like, it is you are, like, it is avoiding things, and he doesn't seem to push the matter further than it needs to be, but it is apparent that you're not telling him something.
Yeah. My aim here is not necessarily to hide things because of, like, fear of retribution, as much as it's like, A, it might not be relevant, and B, I'm not sure, like, as much as Seb genuinely, like, understood what was going to happen, I think he's still processing it to some extent. So it's also a, like, I just don't really want to talk about what happened earlier today because
Totally fine.
Seb did get into a bit of a state when talking to Blaine, so he's, I think, still processing a lot of his own shit at that point.
All good. With that in mind, do you want to give me a psychology roll, Seb, and then we'll go to Katie for the final. Okay. You get the impression that, on the surface at least, he's taking everything in, and he appears to be understanding it and giving it much more respect to the truth than you've been given by people in the past. You weren't there to speak with Wilmarth, but from what Katie and Joe told you, and also as they relay the story again, Wilmarth has a particular investment in the Migo, and his past experiences, almost a panic and a paranoia about that. Armitage has had previous experiences, possibly not as immediately. He has had direct experiences. They have not changed him the way they did Wilmarth. He has kind of almost taken a step back, and he now reconsiders everything on a much grander level. So it's not just the Migo and their things. He would treat you coming to him with much wilder things or much more mundane things and give them weight, and then if there seems to be proof behind it, give it research and look into it. He does not really know a ton about these in particular beyond what Wilmarth told him, but he seems to be taking it not as a face value, but enough to look into it. There might be a level of him considering, like, well, this didn't necessarily happen, but they've experienced something that has driven them to believe they've seen this, and even that in itself is worthy of respect and discussion and research.
I mean, I feel like that's very similar to what Seb believed up until getting electrocuted.
Yep, 100%. We're going to go...
Everybody has a plan until they get electrocuted in the face.
Until they get zapped.
Until they are 1 hit point off being instantly killed.
Badonk. So, Katie, I need you to make a roll. It's less persuasion or charm, unless that's the angle you want to go. I think you've gone down the route of documented information to the person who runs the library. I genuinely think either library use or something similar, because this is just you showing proof and trying to relate to him. I think that completely makes sense. And you're not trying to coach it in any way. You're trying to tell him everything and let him make a decision on his own about what he thinks is worthwhile.
Absolutely. We are kindred spirits in the library. This is obviously an important role. I'm going to try and get every advantage that I can. Can I have a bonus die because of my journal and the various effects that I have?
That is factoring into it already. That is the proof you give, and that's why it's library use, not just charm or something. And unfortunately, given that some information has been obfuscated intentionally, you won't get a bonus dice for full truth as well.
All right, we're doing it live. All right, here we go. That's luckable. That's luckable.
21.
That's a lot. Okay. The other one would be pushing it.
I take my 21 points of
Okay.
luck and get out of
Oh
my
my
sight. Except
goodness.
don't
All right.
if you're needed to run the game.
Just leave. You guys can run from here, right? Okay. All right. So luck we've often do, sometimes it is pure luck. It's something that just changes fate. This is such a hefty investment. I kind of want to know what changes it. You're going through this, he's taking it face value. Maybe he just begins to go, I've had a lot to consider. Let's talk again later. In a level, it's like maybe you haven't telegraphed the severity of the situation and how dire it is. What changes? What extra weight?
I think that it's if you'll permit me, it really is a case of like, he sort of says, I'll need to think, and Katie kind of froze in. He's going, no, but if you look at this and there's all these other signs, and she's sort of desperately, she starts essentially going off book, grasping at straws almost, the wildest claims. And maybe she points to like a point in her journal where she's written about, the Pyrenees or one of the other sites that Oil and Chemical were at, and makes some grand leap. And I think that purely by chance, she touches on whatever Armitage's experience was, just manages to by chance point at something that, makes him go to that and draw some link, however tenuous. And maybe deep down he knows it's not a real link there, but it affects the part of him that has that same appetite for investigation and knowledge, and he can't tear himself away.
I love that. And with it, you'll get a little bit of information as well into Armitage's personal history with the mythos. You go through and you're telling everything, and he does look like he's like, all right, we can consider this, and we can, we'll look into it when it's time. But he doesn't seem to be thinking, this is something that needs to be done tonight. Then you mention again Trent and Laszlo and Block's interference in the library, and you'll also mention something about the idea that they seem to be after the tomes and they're not going to go through it the proper way. It could be that they'll just come in and just try and take them or something, possibly by force. And Seb, you spot Armitage glance to something on the table, a small box with very, very tiny. You'd only be able to hold something the size of like a wristwatch or something. Maybe he glances to that, and then just around the building his own, and he will say, no one's going to break into this library and take anything from it again. Not under my watch. You've come through this the proper channels. Let's reward that. And he stands
something to do
up.
with Harold. I reckon Joe will probably interject at that point and be like, it's got something to do with Harold.
Harold's been
I
acting
think.
strangely. He's not the man I know.
And tomorrow. I think they're going to do it tomorrow. Also, what's wrong with your dog?
Nothing's wrong with Napoleon. He does exactly what he's required to do. Let him do his work.
Right.
As long as you're here under my protection, you'll come to no harm. But I'd warn you from sneaking into the library late at night. He's very good at what he does.
Right.
He, as you're saying, Professor Harold, actually, you can see him think a moment, and then he actually doesn't draw any conclusions. He takes a step back, and the impression that you get, particularly Seb, is that while this is important, is not necessarily his fight, and he seems to take an approach of, this is you, I will give you the tools to do the research and come to your own conclusions. That is not my part here. Perhaps if it escalated or something, but for the moment, I'm not going to say anything that might sway your decisions one way or the other, or plant ideas in your mind. I will let you research and come to your own conclusions, and take a step back.
Just keep an eye out for Harold in particular.
He steps up and like pushes his fist on the desk and is going to begin. He seems to be like drawing this to a close. Art?
Oh, I was gonna say, if I haven't already, I will pull out the list that we got from the students, and say this specifically is what they were looking into, and I will slide the list over at some point and just show the collection of what I assume are book titles, because we didn't just get like, here's what they were looking into in terms of what they were researching. I actually got a list of like books or something. They had a list.
It was quite a long one too. Yep. He takes that, looks over it. It also matches up with, you would have told him earlier about that experience in the library. So he nods at it. And will say, can I hold on to this long enough to make a copy? And I'll give you this back.
You can keep it. I have a copy.
Okay. He'll fold it up and put it into a breast pocket. He then stands up and he says, "Oh, well then, whatever you're against has had time and preparation. Wilmar seems to believe that access to our restricted collection beyond just the rare books will aid you. If that's the case, then so be it. You have my permission to peruse and understand that there are terms for researching here, but I can share them as you go. The four of you will please follow me." I believe I have something to show you. He then fishes out a key, which he hangs around his neck to hold it, and he walks from his office towards the rare books section, which you know, inside of which is a second isolated and secured room, which houses the Miskatonic University's restricted collection of tomes. James?
Very quickly, before we depart, David, would you permit me to... I know that I sort of was convincing him to try and help me, but there was also that little bit of, not venom necessarily, but egotism in what Katie was doing. Would you permit me a Cthulhu mythos roll to see if I genuinely impressed him with my knowledge of the mythos?
Abso-fucking-lutely, dude. Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
And I've got his character sheets. I'll let you know if you're higher.
Okay.
Or how you
Here
stack
we
up.
go. Not a fumble.
Not fumble.
He, as you're talking, you seem to be, you're hitting on beats and things, but it's not enough to necessarily completely check. He's heard Wilmarth's tale, and for the time being, most of your actual mythos knowledge is from the same thread as him. So he also never steps in to like go, yes, you mean you're goth. He lets you say it, and then you'll occasionally go with a nod of like, that is also what I believed it to be. Again, not necessarily in a smug way, just confirming things, but he doesn't let slip. He never adds information to what you know. At no point do you seem to say anything that really jars him or shakes him.
Classic tenured academic. I bet he hasn't published any new mythos work recently, just posting off all the achievements.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair though, if this man has had experience in the mythos, he would be well aware of the stretching of, you know, mental capacity that happens when you are given information you're not yet ready to hear. And so I think it's quite reasonable that if he has more mythos than the rest of us, going to be like, no, let's not lore dump. That's a terrible
break
idea.
their brains.
Yeah,
Break the children's
it
brains.
is much easier to let them to have them ease themselves into this.
If this guy had real experience with the mythos, he'd be dead. Okay, so we know he backed out. So let's leave it at that, and let's get into this book.
Wait, you mean like Joe and I?
Very true.
All right.
It's close.
He steps up and walks from the room, escorting the four of you to the rare book collection. It needs a key already to access, and once inside, you are in a small, that's not true, a like classroom sized room with shelves, very strangely organized. They don't appear to be following a traditional scheme for laying out the books, and there's no detectable patterns of collections, like groupings rather. Probably the librarians know how to lay things out, and then there's a couple of tables that they can study at. And then towards the back, he skirts right past all of these, leading you through the tomes. You can see all these like little faded old books and strange things. And immediately, I mean, Katie in particular is like you'd love to get your hands on. You've probably never been allowed in here based on your previous studies yet. And then towards the back, he approaches what appears to at first just be a supply closet. He heads towards it and he fishes the chain out from around his neck. And as he heads to the door, he plants it into the lock, which you can immediately see is reinforced. Like it's a very sturdy looking piece. And Chaz, actually, you've got a very like a structure, and Joe as well. You guys are both like structural and like practical people. You can immediately spot like, oh, this wall was probably destroyed and has been reinforced. And when replanted, like this wood is different to the rest of the thing. And there's probably like a freaking
Like
rebar through it.
or
Yeah,
something,
exactly.
yeah.
Like this has got some real weight to it. And additionally,
Good talk.
when he puts the key in and turns it, you detect the faintest shimmer of something that moves along the face of the door, and for a moment you think you can almost spot patterns in the wood grain where something's been sort of like very faintly scratched along it. He clicks it open and he appears to wait a good like 5 seconds before pushing the door open, as if waiting for something to resolve. Yeah, Art?
Is this a cult? Is this a cult
Yeah,
nonsense?
make it a cult check. Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm gonna get it. My occult's not super high, but it looks occult to me. No.
Worth a shot.
You spot the patterns moving along, and my instinct is like possibly some sort of like warding, or you don't know. You don't know how
I
real
didn't
any
need
of
a
this
roll
is.
for that one.
Exactly.
May I, Dave? I've also got.
If you also have a
chicken
cult,
and
yeah, I'll go for it.
Boom.
Okay, nice.
Nice.
You spot this, and again, you have a thought of warding. And then you notice that something about it. First of all, it seemed to be he's waiting for it, so it seems to be like it needs a beat to resolve. And you also notice that the pattern in the wood grain is the same as that which was in the small box on his desk in the room. So it appears to be mirrored or possibly tied, cut from the same tree. You don't know exactly what.
I wonder if I can guess what that pattern is. I have some suspicions.
I bet you friggin'
Yeah.
did. He clicks the door open, waits a beat, and then pushes it ajar. It's not a large room. It's bigger than a supply closet, but not by a whole lot. And along the walls are like Air Force military like not containers, like what might be gun cases or something.
Yep.
along the walls, each with individual locks and no information on what might be contained inside. He steps in, and there is no electricity in the room. There's no switch or anything, so instead he'll produce a candle and like light a small match to spark it and place it into the room. There is a single table in the center with a like hard, like uncomfortable looking wooden chair that's even a little rickety. And as he lets all of you in, he'll close the door and reseal it. There are no windows to the outside from here, and you expect that there's probably several layers of brick between this and the space beyond. He turns and he says, "This is the prize of the Orn Library and, dare I say, the Miskatonic University and possibly America and beyond. There is little else that rivals this on the continent and perhaps the globe. This is the result of years of collected tomes from my predecessors that have been passed down into my care, and it is now my charge to protect them. Understand that the information contained within here is dangerous, not only because of what it could lead you to believe, but also the means by which it would do it. This information is not to be sought lightly. I've listened to what you've said, and I have some suggestions of where you might wish to start. Each of these books you can only study while I am present, or one of my colleagues. If you wish to study them for an extended period, I'll have someone else come and watch over you while you read. This is for your own safety as well as for that of the tomes. Do not attempt to get into any of these lockers to look into information that you are not prepared for. Am I clear? Very well then.
Dr. Armitage,
Yes.
before you leave,
Oh, I'm not leaving.
sorry, before we begin then. You said you wouldn't let something be taken from the library again.
That's right. He does appear to be like, I'll let that slip. He does go,
Yeah.
that's right, but there's a pause of like, kind of hope that one got through.
Not against me, mate. I understand if I asked what it was that was removed, you wouldn't tell me, so instead, may I ask when?
Several years ago, untied to Wilmarth's experiences and to your own, and don't worry, it was retrieved. And he looks over towards a back wall, and seated against it is a box, and unlike all the others in the room, it is visible. The contents inside are clear because it's a glass, like museum style display, except you can spot again marks on the interior. The glass doesn't look particularly thick, it looks almost thin, and he doesn't stop anyone going over to look at it, and so curiosity might take some of you. And looking inside, you can see seated against a wooden backed thing, so it like holds up and presents it aloft, is a brown leather tome with a strange like shaped molds around it, as if twisted. And who looks towards it?
No.
Absolutely.
Seb and anyone else who walks
Chaz and Joe are like,
for Seb
no.
and Katie then looking towards it, you spot the patterns, and then with a beat you realize that they are vaguely face shaped. It's almost like eyes or the eyelids pulled backwards and a mouth stretched along the cover. It appears to have been bound with human skin, and is also the prize of the Miskatonic University collection. That, Armitage will explain, is called the Necronomicon, and is far beyond what you need to look into today. You're not to approach it.
Thanks, I hate it.
All right.
Fine. Quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Is Seb aware how frayed Joe is?
Yes.
It's pretty clear.
Right.
I'm not touching those books. Joe gets inside the door and then kind of just stands against it again, like as far from any of those cases as possible. She's just like, and at this point she will actually speak up and just be like, I'm not the fastest reader, or even the best reader. I'm just gonna, I'm just moral support, guys.
Here to help.
Moral support.
I'll give you some information first before, so just, oh no, I need to boot up 1 second. Before we, actually, sorry, go ahead, because I need to boot something up. Art, if you want to say anything to...
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it appears, Dr. Armitage, that from what you're saying and also from our own experiences, research and coming into contact with things of this nature are dangerous to the psyche.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if we see something we shouldn't hear? What within the well, perhaps not we see what we shouldn't, but we see what we're not prepared to see while researching these tomes. Is there a way to avoid issue without being sent to the hospital?
The room is secured. I or one of my colleagues, and he thumbs the ring, will be here to watch over you as you read. Should the worst happen, we'll keep you safe until it passes. If it proves to be irrevocable, we'll deal with that when it happens. No one's going to the hospital.
Thank you, Doctor. That is all I needed to know.
And then no one going to the hospital has the faintest ominous twinge to it. Like, it's kind of like, if you bite
no
off,
doctors, no lawyers.
If you bite off more than you can chew, you shouldn't have
done.
done that.
Yeah.
He begins to go through lockers, opening them and closing, and you get glimpses into the books inside. There are a lot of them. And they are in all manner of states of decay. Some of them have been like resealed, rebound. Some of them have been left to sort of like fall apart on their shelves. And he begins to pile them up. He will place before you 5 books. And he begins to go over them and introduce them vaguely. These are the ones that he thinks might be most relevant to what you're looking into. It's up to you how you choose to study them. He places one down. He says, this is called Cults des Ghouls, except he says it with proper French. It was written in 1702. It is completely in French, and it covers a range of necro sort of nonsense. If your friends died and were brought back by something, this might be where to start. He places that on the table. He gets another one called De Vermi Mysterii, except pronounce it properly in Latin. This is an even older tome. It was originally written in Arabic. This is a second translation, and it discusses a range of all things supernatural. This was back long enough ago that if your fungi were present then, they may have been more brazen and they may have left marks on the world, and perhaps looking further back will give you insight into the present. Places another on the table, and this is called Of Evil Sorceries Done in New England by Demons in No Human Shape. It was written by the Reverend Ward Phillips in 1788 or thereabouts. This is a second printing, and it is much more present because it covers Vermont and the regions, and it mentions demons. It could absolutely have ties to what have been called demons by Wilmot and also by the native tribes. Here long ago. He brings out another one called Nameless Cults. This one is also written in English, and it covers, once again, a wide range of things. It has a more general passing, and also, the way he says it contains... strange means of transmutation beyond our current scientific bounds.
Sorry, strange memes?
Memes, yeah, it's like a bunch of
Memes.
macros and
Anyone else hear strange memes?
strange memes
Alright, that's
is what
fine.
I meant to say.
No.
It's just cat pictures mostly. And
They are
last,
very occult.
and lastly is the narcotic manuscripts, which speaks of an alien race that possibly had interacted with the Earth before we took control of it. So once again,
What language is that final one?
English. All of them are in English, but the tome in Latin and one in French.
Great.
These are the ones that he has permitted you to study. Any will take time. And from here, we're going to kind of zoom out a bit. It's late at night. It depends on what you each want to do. If you plan to stay here and study, he can look over you, or one of the companions can come in and watch. I kind of want to know, what are each of you doing for the night, into the next day, into beyond? What's your plan?
Chaz is a bit concerned. He didn't know the books could scare him, but turns out they can.
Yep.
This whole vibe is not good. Just the way
Bruh.
everyone is so serious and somber about,
Bunch of friggin'
flat
books.
trees. That's not right. He's never seen someone scared of books, so it makes me think he should be scared of books.
Well,
Yeah.
So if it's okay with everyone else, he's not going to help with the research. I mean, well, no, that's not true. If someone says, Chaz, can you just give him that book for us? He's going to want to help because he doesn't want anyone to know that he's scared of the books.
What did you
But
call
he's
the
not going to
last one?
volunteer.
The last one was called like
Narcotic manuscripts.
Narcotic
PNAKOTIC.
manuscripts. I feel like if Chaz looks concerned, Seb will turn to him and just say, "This book appears to be about sleepy aliens."
What? Sleepy aliens?
About aliens. That's kind of up your alley, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah, of course. Do you want me to read that one?
You're not interested in aliens anymore. You seem pretty excited when we found out about extraterrestrial things.
Yeah. Well, you know, I don't know. That was fun out there, out in the field. That's where, things are lively and interesting, and you can punch anything that looks at you wrong.
Well,
Yeah, I don't think the doctor'd be too happy if I started punching these books.
probably not. Although, just between you and me, Chaz, I'm pretty sure that at least in some of these books, there are going to be descriptions on how you punch those things better.
You're selling me on it.
listen,
Not you.
Yeah, Joe.
if the two of you
Joe's just like, oh.
if the two of you want to read them, then by all means, we could use the help. There's a lot to go through here, but I think there's a certain amount of specialization in our skill sets. Maybe Seb and I stay here. We start moving through stuff. The two of you can get some sleep and try and do some surveillance. Check in.
Well, yeah. Hey, just
intermittently.
quickly, I saw the cops out there looking at our dormitories, probably trying to chase us
Yikes.
down. Here's the other thing, though. Detective Harding was out there. He was the one looking over me because of how I was on trial for murder, whatever. Guess he's probably looking for me. Here's the thing, though. The other cops, they went home. He sat on the bench for a bit, lost in his own thoughts or whatever. And he got in a car. A car pulled up, picked him
Like
up,
a cop
got in,
car?
drove away. Not a cop car.
You reckon he might be, one of them?
I think we have to assume that until it's proven otherwise.
Well,
You are right. You got an extreme on that one. It was not Gibbons' car, at least. You know that much.
was
You don't
not
recognize
Gibbons'
the car. So it
car.
wasn't that one, but you didn't see who was inside, unfortunately. It was dark and so on and so forth. But I will say that.
Yeah, so, if this was just an ordinary police investigation, he'd get in his cop car, surely. And the fact that someone else was picking him up, like he sent the other cops away, and he sat down, waited on a park bench, and he got in this other car. So, Where was Detective Harding from? Is he from Arkham, or
He's an
did he
Arkham
follow
native.
us from somewhere else?
He's an
okay,
Arkham native.
sure.
He was assigned. Your trial was in Salem, but then you were sent to. You were like told you can go back to school, but you just need to make sure you turn up on time and not a foot out of line, and obviously don't try and leave town or anything. And Harding was assigned to your case. You just keep tabs on you and just talk to you whenever. Just make sure you don't do anything stupid.
Okay.
Since you have begun doing stupid things, he's not looking for you again.
Yeah, my concern is he was from like Brattleboro or something.
No,
so
no,
he'd be
he's
closer to
from
God's
Arkham.
corners.
Listen, I think we had a plan. We had a kind of direction. We know that they're up to something. We need to find out what that is. And the information about what they're up to, what they're planning, it's going to be in these books. The one question is, can we find out what it is before they start to do whatever they want to do?
Yeah.
I think the best plan is 2 teams, surveillance team and reading team. You check in with us
agree.
every now and again. We can hit you with all the information that we have. And if you see them move, if you see them act, then we have to go and we'll use whatever information we have. In the meantime,
I
we can
agree.
try and figure stuff out.
All right.
And also,
so,
I heard. I don't know. I think I heard it. I don't know how I heard it. Harold and tomorrow. Something is going to happen with Harold tomorrow. I want to find out where he is and where he's going to be. And what day's tomorrow?
By the
Saturday?
time now, it would be Saturday. It's now early and Friday morning.
tomorrow, that's the big dance.
It is, but what do you mean you heard it? You just...
I don't know what I mean. I heard it. I felt it. Whatever.
Your injuries, the burns or whatever, the ones you got from touching.
I don't know.
Do you mind if I, and I'll come forward, do you mind if I take a look at your injuries really quickly?
Can we maybe do it after all of this goes to shit or doesn't?
Joe?
I mean, by all means, but are we not under some degree of time pressure here?
I hate to say this, it's not so much I'm trying to fix you, I'm working on a theory. Dave, put up.
Okay. And she's just gonna put her hands out,
Excellent. I am thinking
roll up her
that
sleeves.
if Joe says she's hearing something and she's touched John Jeffries. John Jeffries is the, radial telekinetic power drive. I'm thinking there might have been some transit of, infection, corruption, whatever you want to say. There's some element that's hooked her into whatever this hive mind thing.
James,
that's
that
going on.
sounds crazy. Do you want to
You
give me a
said
medicine
crazy.
roll?
Like 3 of us were thinking it.
Do you want to give me a medicine roll?
Exactly. I have I've medicine. That's what I put some skill in during
for it.
our last campaign break. Could I check if the wounds have become more aggravated or flared up to symbolize possibly that there might have been some kind of transmission through them?
Absolutely.
All right. Now, when I say I have points in medicine, not enough.
More than one.
Yeah.
Nice.
You have a look at it. Unfortunately, it for one thing, it doesn't look like it's healing super well. You don't know how great care. It also hasn't been long enough, but there's nothing to confirm if it's you no insight beyond that. Unfortunately, you can push the roll. As you're holding it, you can see that because it's begun to scab over a bit, and that might be hiding. You could try and actually start to peel back the re-healing skin and get a look. The risk is damaging Joe.
Joe
The risk is Joe will punch you in the face.
Exactly. No, I will, and that will kill me.
That will kill you.
Fine.
And Armitage would be so annoyed if I died in the library.
Oh,
Although
yeah, that's
I'd probably, stagger backwards, hit the glass case of the Necronomicon, be reanimated as Necro Katie, and then go around. But no, let's leave that for another time. I'll cover up your wounds as best as I can and say they look painful. I hope. Oh, you're right. We gotta focus.
Yeah, it's weird and it's probably bad, but so's everything.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But I agree. I think 2 teams is the way to go. Chaz and I are not readers of tomes, but
Yeah.
you know what? The finding people and keeping an eye on them, that we can do.
Yeah, but we take shifts and then at least 2 of us are gonna get half a night's sleep. That sounds like a bad thing.
And we'll check in with you. We'll come back and, like you said, pick up what you know, and we'll tell you what we know. I really think we got to find out Harold's involvement in this and what his movements are. I mean, if the dance is tomorrow, then don't the staff have like things that start, like roles assigned to them
hours from now,
don't they?
Yeah.
Dr. Armitage, are you able to tell us what Professor Harold was did get access to?
He asked for access to he asked for permission for, at first, Jason Trent and then William Noakes to get access to the restricted collection. I denied both requests because there was no good reason for it, and I didn't want them. Then he himself asked for access to the rare book collection, which I allowed, as he was a professor, and he said it was for research into New England history for his class. He spent some time in there, but never went into the restricted collection.
Is there any possibility, this is such an odd question, but what is the surveillance like in the rare book section?
It doesn't need to be constantly monitored, if that's what you're asking. I make sure I check I or one of my trusted librarians will check whatever anyone is reading, and have them sign it out. And we do check in periodically, but it does not need to be constantly watched. A student would be monitored, but a professor is allowed to look at books by themselves.
If it's known that professors are allowed to look at books by themselves, and they seem pretty confident that they will be able to gain access to the restricted section, is there any possibility that whomever Professor Harold is either inhabited by or working for may have asked him to plant something in the rare book section that would disrupt the protection of the restricted section?
He looks concerned. It's possible. We check the section every day. There's been nothing found. I can check it again though, or have one of my trusted colleagues search it.
Call me paranoid, but it just seems odd that he would be asking for access to the rare book section after being denied the restricted section, where nothing that they seem to require. I'm assuming based on the list that we gave him, he would. These are all books from the restricted, not from the rare.
No, there are no books listed from the restricted section. There are some from the rare. There are none from the restricted because there is no documented list of the restricted collection. It does not exist. There used to be one. Armitage burned it. So now the only way to know what's in the selection is to search it, and which you're not allowed to do, or for Armitage himself, who's the only person who knows everything is, and even he possibly has some blank spots.
Regardless, it just popped into my mind as something that might be, if they can't get what they want, they'll try the next best thing, and they did seem confident they'd be able to get what they wanted, so. He
does think for a minute, he will eventually say, I did access the restricted collection while he was there. It's possible he was looking to see the means of entry.
Well, given that the things that we encountered have the ability to shoot lightning from rocks, that's a little concerning.
It is. I'm gonna have someone search the rare books section again. In the meantime, why don't you begin your studies, and I'll have one of my colleagues come up and look over you shortly so I can return to my work. Miss Johnston and Mr. Dedrick, am I to escort you outside?
Yes, please. You wouldn't happen to know anything about Professor Harold's whereabouts, movements, usual whatnots?
I can give you his address.
Would love that.
He gives it to you. It's across the road from Wilmarth, who actually mentioned that he had been watching Harold come out. So you have that address.
There is a chance that Harold will not be at his address if he intends to remain in that house.
Wilmarth even mentioned that Harold didn't seem to be there. He was keeping odd hours and was possibly sleeping somewhere
But it's still possibly worth searching the house if he's not there.
Exactly.
Okay. Sure. I wasn't sure. Do we want to stray too far from here? I mean, I thought we were on guard duty here.
I don't think so. I think we keep an eye out around here.
I don't think anything's getting into the restricted section tonight.
Ooh.
Well, okay, but someone could get outside the restricted section, outside the library, waiting for us to come out. If anyone knows we're here, that's what I'm concerned about.
We'll keep an eye out.
And perhaps we don't leave until, broad daylight. It's pretty hard for them to do anything too awful.
Even the risk is, during broad daylight, the risk is then that you get seen by a professor or a student.
Yeah, but expulsion is better than death.
I guess.
Depends
if you ask Katie.
Yeah, if you ask our resident
2 seconds.
resident Hermione over here. There's one other thing I do want to ask Dr. Armitage, possibly like as an aside, and I know it's like a tiny room and it's going to be hard to do it, but kind of without the other 3 hearing?
Sure. I would say that is straight up impossible in this room currently.
Great. He's not going to leave without all of us being gone.
That's right. You could sit on it. There'll be a change in the guard at some point because he's planning to get a colleague to watch over you while you're here.
Yeah, I might ask, if there's a possibility once someone else comes into the room, if it would be possible for me to speak to him, in his office.
Certainly.
So that none of us are in here alone, but so I can speak to him.
I can arrange that. No worries. All right. With that, so Joe and Chaz, one of the other librarians, will take you, and you'll be walked back downstairs and out past Napoleon and beyond. It'd be now like 4 a.m, or possibly even pushing 5, and very early. We're going to zoom out a bit as we pass the time here because taking the books takes a while, and because I want to. What do people?
Oh, just to let you know, I've decided to amend Katie's backstory to say that she grew up in a circus and learned to do the dual reading thing where you can read
That's cool.
I'm just going to make that amend.
Chameleon.
That's wild. What do people want to do as day begins to break and we go through the next sort of we'll just do them in larger chunks, what are kind of people's objectives, and we'll have a couple of rolls.
Oh.
Well, there is a book in French which Seb speaks. So I think that's probably one of Seb's things, is to try and get a basic translation of this one down. And sorry, you insinuated that the cult book has some bullshit in it.
They've all got bullshit in them. Oh, that kind of bullshit. Yes, the cult one in particular.
Great.
They all probably have some level of bullshit. That one in particular has bullshit.
I will go for the particular bullshit as well,
okay,
then,
the cult
eventually.
One. Right. Beginning with the French.
Yeah, I'll skim over the French, see how much I can, because my French is okay. It's speaking, but not great. And then if I am struggling with that, I'll put that aside to take more time with it later, and I'll go to one of the English books.
Okay. And then Katie, there's the narcotic manuscripts, which are the ones of something much older. There's De Vermi Mysteri, which is the Latin one that has since was translated from original one in Arabic. And there is Of Evil Sorceries done in New England by demons in no human shape.
I'm gonna do
nameless cults, if you want to go that one first.
Yep. I'm gonna do Of Evil Sorceries, because that feels like the one that is the most relevant to what the others were looking into. And then I will go to the narcotic manuscripts because, hey, sleepy aliens. And
at this point, you're probably going to be looking at not sleeping tonight or the following if you're going to be going through 2, just flagging.
If I'm reading 2 Mythos books, I'm looking at never sleeping ever again.
I love it. Awesome.
I was going to say, Seb does not have a lot of energy, so I think there is he will take moments to grab 20 minutes of rest in between sessions. He's going to try and sort of intermittently nap. He might even pass out for
sleep.
He might also pass out for 4 or 5 hours at some point, so take that into account when it comes to how much he actually gets through, because Seb will not be able to function without having some sleep. If anyone is familiar with the spoon theory, you can spend your spoons from tomorrow. It's just gonna suck.
It sucks.
Yeah.
And Seb has very few spoons to begin with, so...
You're bloody spoonless, mate. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll leave so Seb and Katie are going to stay and study. Chaz and Joe, it's early morning, you could head back and rest. Otherwise, if you want to look into things, the way we'll probably handle this will be a tied roll to it, with the assumption that failure is more you lose the tail or you step back before risking things too close, unless you fumble or something. It's probably just, you're cautiously looking into things.
Yeah.
Or you could look into sourcing weaponry or equipment, getting general vibes, whatever you want to do, really.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that I definitely want to do. If I can get, a brief kip to make sure that I'm not useless.
Yep.
That would be ideal. I'd also like to know. I'd probably start asking around because I'm not quite as much of a pariah as these other students at the moment. I'm getting there, but not quite. Maybe ask around with preparations for the dance and just ask, who's doing what teacher roles are, just be generally curious about, the organization of
100%.
the coming days and just listening out for anything to do with Harold and where he might be and what his roles might be in the coming days. The other thing I'd really like to do is acquire a like a tub of gasoline.
Okay, awesome. And we'll find out what you're going to do with that.
Like a receptacle of gasoline.
Canister or
Massive
whatever.
one, but
Not like a tub, like a bucket.
just a bucket of gasoline.
Just completely
Technically
lost
a
it.
drum.
A drum
like
if
a
you want to do
drum.
it. Or that's like a jerry can if you want it like
That's
portable.
right.
Jerry can, that's the one I was looking for.
because drum
Jerry
is like
can.
a small,
like
a small.
Great, let's give the investigators explosives.
Yeah, I want
Okay.
a jerry can. I want a jerry can of gasoline.
Okay, so
Like a
Joe's going to
truck.
sleep, so they're not completely fucked. Then look into both the dance and acquiring explosives. Chaz, what do you want to do?
Well, yeah. How long are we giving these folks in the library?
It's kind of like they're probably in there for at least a day or something.
Okay. I
lasts
thought it
longer.
was just the night.
Nah,
but-
it can be, but no, we're going to kind of move ahead timeline
All right,
wise. So
fantastic.
it's kind of like, what do you do over the next 8 hours, 16 hours, and beyond? And we'll just,
All
and
right,
then
well, that's
events
good to
may
hear.
occur that will stop things pushing forward.
Do I get the sense that they're safe here? That we don't need to guard them?
In the restricted,
mean-
in the restricted section particularly, yes,
Yeah.
that is
The fact that
again. You're kind of paranoid about
Armitage is
Armitage and
letting
his cabal, but they're as safe as anywhere else. Sorry,
have no
no,
choice
that's
but
not
to trust
completely true.
Armitage at
They are
this stage.
safer than anywhere else. Do you think?
Yeah, we can't not trust Armitage. That way madness lies. Okay, well that's good to know. So yeah, I'll probably grab a kip as well with
Little
with little schnoz with Joe.
days.
Then there's not much Chaz can do in the daylight because it doesn't want to be seen on campus.
Again, because we're kind of assuming, I'm going to be assuming like if you fail, campus in particular is risky, it'll be hard, but failure in this is going to be you pull the pin early and like turn around
Yeah.
and go back rather than being captured unless you like fumble or something.
Alright. Well, that's good to
then
know.
that's campus, you'll probably have a penalty dice for anything. Off campus, like, you're in the streets and you're looking through newspapers with eye holes cut out and things, like you can be doing stuff.
Okay.
Do the professors' housing count as campus for that purpose?
I would
or are
say
they...
they do, yes.
Yeah.
They are
Yeah.
technically off campus, they're just adjacent, but there's enough students and professors around that be a bit
I do
risky
like the
for
sound of
Chaz.
that. All right, if you tell me that failure just means I have to run back to the library.
Yeah, or you just turn down a side street and fuck off.
Yeah, then I'd like to keep an eye on those
Yeah.
professors. Which professors were we particularly
Harold.
keen on seeing? Harold.
Wilmarth's the other one that was involved in
Wilmarth's-
any way. And
but
and
Wilmarth
Leomont
was kind
is
of-
your third
and
one that's
Leomont.
kind of tied to anything.
I'd say Harold is number one, and keep half an eye on Leomont, but given that Leomont said Harold isn't the man I used to know, I suspect he
Yeah.
is similar to Blaine, someone who's being manipulated, not someone who's actually being
Yeah.
mind controlled.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I
fantastic.
reckon we focus on Harold if we can.
So
Almost
Chaz
makes
and
me
Joe are
feel
both
bad
going to get a
for breaking
snooze
results.
on. Then while Joe asks around about the dance, Chaz, you're going to look
Yeah.
into the whereabouts of Harold and possibly Leomont. And then if Joe's going for gasoline, is there like, do you want to have a secondary objective ready to go? Depending on time? Or are you just going to focus on monitoring?
I'll let you know.
Okay, no worries.
No, I want to keep it. Yeah, as much as I can. Let's watch Harold.
So you'll just tell.
That's- Yeah.
Perfect. All right, so straight out of the gate, 7 Katie, can you make constitution rolls just so you stay up all night because you're not. So the other two go back and sleep. You guys are going to immediately
I
go.
said I was gonna try and get some sleep in the room, so
Okay, if you in that case, then we'll just put you a bit behind Katie, who's going to dive straight into it.
yep.
Okay, you don't need
I
to make
am-
the con roll. You can just sleep in there
Seb
if you want.
cannot. It is not something Seb can do.
Okay, awesome. All right, and Katie succeeds. So Katie's gonna
Mechanically
do
aside, narratively, no.
Okay.
Seb
No,
has to sleep.
I love it.
And Katie cannot sleep. I am staying up.
Fucking wired. Okay. So you guys are going to be doing what's called the initial reading of tomes, where you're going to get some insight into what the contents are. Extended readings take weeks or months of study to really understand the stuff, and it's just beyond this time frame. But you can do initial readings of a few, given you have what is kind of like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to read them here. It's good to take advantage of it. Once you come out of the initial reading, you will make a roll depending on the language it's in, and then if successful, you will gain some Cthulhu mythos, take a sanity penalty, and have knowledge of the rough content, and possibly also of the spells contained within, if there are any. Finally, one other cool mechanic, which I would be remiss not to mention, is the concept of being a believer or not. There's this really cool thing in Cthulhu where if you have not yet encountered anything of the mythos, you cannot be a believer. You can study them from afar and kind of treat them as like a hypothetical. Everyone here has encountered the mythos, except I double-checked the wording just before the stream, and it is if you have lost sanity as a result of the mythos, which technically Seb has not. You have only lost sanity from the result of something dying from the child, and that was only a tick. So Seb, if you want to, you can still be a non-believer, which means you are looking at this as like kind of a scientific mind and kind of being like, I guess we'll see. The way this works is you do not lose sanity from reading the tomes, you just gain the mythos. However, the first time you lose sanity as a result of seeing a mythos creature, it all comes rushing back and you lose all of the sanity in one fell swoop, which is bound to lead to disaster, but it's also kind of cool. So, it is totally up to you how you want to. You have seen the Migo, and you have seen things, so it makes sense for you to believe it. You could also be, again, because you've lost no sanity, every time it happened, you just went, fuck that. It is up to you.
I mean, I know what I want to do from like an entertainment perspective.
Yep.
Also, FYI, for anyone watching, I can lose 15 sanity in a day before I am indefinitely
insane. There's a chance it doesn't. Yeah.
There's a chance I might go temporarily insane in one hit, but there's a chance I might.
I'll say
still might
some
not
of these tomes are fairly meaty. There's some big hits in here for some of them.
Yeah.
Let's say that way, because let's go to Katie first, who's going to do a first initial reading. Katie, which one? Sorry, forgive me. Which one did you decide you wanted to look at first?
Was it the one with
Latin?
the funny name, the cults, the
demons and beyond the
form.
blah 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 blah. Okay, awesome. All right.
It's not funny. It's a very serious name. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's right. Come on, man. So you settle in, and not long after, Armitage will introduce you to Professor Warren Rice. He teaches languages here at the university, and though he doesn't wear one of the rings, you'll soon learn he is a member of this same little like coterie, along with Wilmarth and Armitage. He has had experiences himself. He is an older bloke. He doesn't seem as physically capable as Armitage, and he has a generally sort of like dour and kind of pessimistic attitude. When he comes in and Armitage talks to him, he seems to have already assumed the worst. He's like, oh, is something happening again, Henry? And no, it's fine. He goes, right. It's just there's students in the restricted, so they're going to get themselves killed, Armitage. You can't let them read these things. They make it worse for themselves. They're fools. And he comes in, he looks at both of you, and he shakes his head. He goes, you're already lost. You're already lost. And turn away now. Very negative about the whole thing. But eventually he settles down, and occasionally you'll just hear a harumph from the corner as he takes his shift.
When he gives it to Hugh loud harumph, I will remind him that we are in a library.
And you... Okay, great. Katie, you begin to read. It will take you several hours to get through, so it move into the morning. But actually, as you go through, you realize that this is the lightest of the tomes when compared to the others. So this looks into witches, warlocks, shamans, and things from New England's history. It's written from the perspective of the colonists who came over and experienced these things, and all of it's twinged with that sort of like puritanical light that takes a bit of filtering to understand. As you read it, this one does not require a language test. However, I'm going to ask you to do one anyway, for reasons I will keep to myself if you fail. So go ahead and make a language English roll, please. Which I imagine you're...
Crit.
Well, that's curious. Okay. Are you
It
going through
turns
this?
out that I just love this kind of literature.
Yeah, you're skimming through it. So the interesting thing is there are not spells contained within the text. However, this is a personal copy of the author, Reverend Ward Phillips, which have been preserved, and there are annotations in the margins which clarify things and look into the information that's hidden behind them. And amongst them, there are some what could only be called spells. They're like incantations and the means by which to cast them. You see one which mentions to reveal or dismiss something called Ithaka, which is said to dwell in northern Canada. And there's images scratched into the margins of a tall, horribly tall creature that towers above the trees with huge stars for eyes. There is another for something called Nalato, and inscribed next to it is almost like the alien logo of like a bundled up spinal looking creature, almost like in a fetal position.
I know this one.
And then once more something called Sadogawa, which has next to it a squat bat-eared looking creature, but by the scale of the little scratchings around it, which look to be at first as little like hash marks and then you realize to be people, would be truly immense. Lastly, there is something for a symbol which could be marked into the book, and you find it actually scratched into the front of the tome, which is said to be some sort of defense against what the Reverend calls this grand mythos. This is something he refers to as the Elder Sign, and that is a spell which you could learn to cast. It is also not a particularly long one. Now, that is not the crit. I was just passing the test.
That is not the crit. Oh
the
my
crit
god, I got
is
real
a
lucky.
single case wherein a witch was, a woman was found to be a witch and was hung on Hangman's Hill, not far from here, overlooking Arkham. She was a woman called Goody Fowler, and she was convicted by a group of people, of Arkham citizens, and amongst them, you recognize the name McCarthy.
Oh, wow. Okay, that is interesting. I think at that point I look over to Seb, who I presume at the time is sleeping, catching one of those power naps, and kind of, I'll have to let them know about that later. Very interesting.
Awesome. James, can you now take a D6 of sanity loss and increase your Cthulhu Mythos by a single point?
Will do. Sanity loss is 3, and
Not bad.
I'm adding a single point to my Cthulhu Mythos.
Okay, and there's the first one. That moves you into about sort of like it'd be midday or so. Let's look in. Seb, let's do you, Seb. Do you want to look at the French one first?
Yes, I did also want to speak to Armitage, although what Jim found may make that irrelevant, but narratively I don't know that yet. So
Okay.
I did want to speak to Armitage at some point.
Do you want to do
I will
Armitage
point
first?
it
Then?
out to you as soon as it is,
This
appropriate.
is your later in the reading, Jim, so it'll be like midday that you find this after Seb can have begun reading and speaking. In that case, if you want to speak to Armitage, it'd be earlier on. So as Dr. Rice comes in and takes over, Armitage will probably just like quietly shake you awake and say you wanted to speak to me. And then as Rice comes in and harumphs and settles down in the chair, again, there's only one seat in here, everything else like you're on the floor reading things. He takes you into the adjacent office and will say, what did you want to speak to me about?
You are aware that my family has a long and storied history at this university.
I recognize your name.
Seb swallows it is on a building.
Mm-hmm.
And then says, I thought it might have been a dream, but given that dreams seem to have meaning somehow here, my family appears to have been involved in something like this before. Would you know where? Are there any tomes, either the ones we've already received or outside, that would detail witchcraft and bargains?
The tome your friend's reading would cover most of this. Beyond that, truthfully, Professor Harold would be one to ask, although I can see why you don't trust him at the moment. Arkham has a long and storied history, and any family that's been here will be tied into it. At this point, Seb, could you please give me a charm roll, I think, actually. So he is not one for giving information beyond, and he doesn't want to. He's kind of like, I'll lead them, let them discover things of your own. He will just say, every family has a history here. Your family's been around long enough. It is impossible to not be involved.
Thank you. I'm not going to push it. I think it's enough.
Yeah.
It's enough to know.
Okay.
And Seb will go back in and start sleep and then pick up when he wakes up again.
Yep. Awesome. Okay. You having? Let's do your roll then. So you were going to look into the French tome. James, could you give us a pronunciation of this if I put in the text?
Yeah, sure. It just cults of the ghouls, right?
Yes.
Cultes des ghouls.
Oh, hell yeah.
I think.
No, that sounds right to me. All right. Thank you, Jim. Resident Frenchman. So Seb, you hop up. Seb, you hop up and begin to thumb through this book. This one you are going to need to make a French language check because it is not only written in French, it's written in French in 1702. So it's probably fairly bloody dense. I'm not going to, I think with timing, because you're only going for the skim, it won't be a hard test, just a standard one. As you're reading through this, it is a fairly grim book with pictures you really wish weren't in there. It was written quite long ago, and then the church publicly denounced it and said this was a sacrilegious text. It documents a cult, supposedly all throughout France, which practices every sort of necro with something after it, including necromancy, necrophagy, and necrophilia, a bunch of gross shit. And it also talks about the magics around that, and supposedly them having influence all across France, and with the implication that they have fingers spread abroad. It does talk about the means by which information could be pulled from a corpse and planted in another, and you can see like maybe the thread of why Armitage thought this might be relevant to you. You do a lot of like skipping over pictures and things and try and just get a sense of it. However, for the detail, I will need a French check. Just before you roll, this one is more serious than Katie's, but not the worst in the bundle. So as far as the sanity hit.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, I understand it.
Nice. Okay. So through that, you will see all of these necromantic spells and means. One thing you will confirm is that you do not believe. None of them are one for one with what appears to have happened here. These appear to be still living bodies that are being used. And although, like Henry Akeley, and you don't know what people are inside them, none of these appear to be the same thing that's done. Additionally, there are no ties to like scientific stuff. They don't mention instruments, which seems to be more in line with the Migos methods. At the end, you actually don't believe that this is super pertinent. However, I will say there are some magics contained within. Amongst them, there is a spell which is called the Black Binding, which speaks of finding a corpse fresh enough, filling it with some vile liquid, and then commanding it to do thy bidding, which you could look into. There is also something called the Lasting Cloak of Another's Flesh, which mentions how one of these prime cultists would cast their mind at taking control of a younger cultist, and they could continue to stay in control of the cult long beyond their years. And then finally, this one's got a few, there is a spell called Recrudescence, which supposedly does the impossible and brings the dead back to life, but at a very dire cost.
I don't know if this impacts, like, what kind of rolls I would need to make, but I think as soon as Seb realizes this is not relevant, he stops.
Okay.
Like, he doesn't look any further, he doesn't care, like, he might go, like, if he gets far enough to be like, oh, there's some weird magics, oh, that's all about necromancy, this isn't relevant, and he just puts it aside. Like, he's not going to continue looking into this book if it does not seem relevant, so if he doesn't even get to the spells, that's fine. Like he just puts
you
it
would.
aside.
Studying these, it's tough to find, and they are like thick tomes. Like you're thumbing through it and just trying to look for information. So you need to spend all of that just getting to that point. So you spend the time on that. I will now ask you to take a D10 sanity loss.
Ooh. While you're rolling that as well, Seb, I'll say quickly, just because I love the spell names and book names and stuff. I looked up recrudescence and the actual definition, and it's a spell that returns you to life. The word means the recurrence of an undesirable condition, which I think in the context of bringing you back to life is very interesting.
Kind of humorous.
Now, question about this, like, I can take all of this later thing.
Yep.
If I wanted to take all of this later, would it be like I roll them now and then go, that's how much I'm taking?
No,
or it's like
all.
we roll it all at the time.
So later on, when you see a goblin or whatever, you roll, you fail, you take a sanity point, you then also roll a D10.
Part of me really just wants to take it all in one hit because I think that's going to be fucking funny, but I do actually want to throw this to my cast, to the rest of the cast. Like, what do you reckon?
I mean, you know how I play tabletop games.
Yes, I know.
So you know what my answer is.
I think you do you. Yeah.
No, you got it. You got to take it all at once. We want to see disaster and catastrophe. That's why we're here. That's why we're playing this game.
And also, it matches kind of how Seb's been doing it so far. Sure, like this stuff's happening, but like you read this and you go like, I don't know. I can say that.
Yeah, I feel like just because of the way I described, like he skims through it and he goes, this isn't relevant, and puts it aside, and it represses. Just
Okay.
goes, no,
Yes,
none of that.
everything's
so
gonna be repressed.
Let's just I'll make sure I make notes of what dice I will
I
be
appreciate
rolling.
that.
But yeah.
Well, I guess, and then you can also go ahead and increase your Cthulhu mythos by 4.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Damn.
Oh, we discussed this at the end of last session off camera, but probably worth
Right.
bringing up again. Was there anything when Katie and Joe relayed information
yes.
to Wilmarth?
Wilmarth,
Was
yeah,
that something
that's a
we
good
needed to do?
I remember talking about that, and then I did not think about it as soon as we hung
I
up the
think
call.
we got 3.
You guys got 3 each. And with
think.
the discussion afterwards, did I give you? I think I made you roll a D.
I think we
Did I
did
make
roll
you,
it, yeah. and
I think
it
you rolled a
was-
D6, right?
Yeah, and I think I got 3.
7, Chaz, can you both roll a D4? I think for it's not quite first hand.
What was this
that'll-
for, sorry?
This is for all the information that Wilmarth kind of dumped. Like you have the name now, you know your goth, you know the Migo, you know what they've done previously. Hey, nice. Hey, gang's all here. All right, both of you increase your Cthulhu mythos by 4 points. Thank you. Yes, good reminder. I totally forgot about that.
Delightful.
Okay.
Do we need to make sanity checks because it was second-hand information?
I think that's fine. No, let's not bother with that. They go, oh, heads up. This is gonna be weird. All right, that happens. Chaz and Joe, you head back to the ow, slammed a pen in my friggin' teeth. You head back to the. It was pretty acrobatic, actually. Chaz and Joe, you head back to the McCarthy house. You get arrested, but soon birds are tweeting. Cars are racing, and you're up and going for the day. So Chaz, you're going to go and try and find Professor Harold and see what he's possibly getting up to, while Joe, you head into school to get a sense for the upcoming dance preparations and who might be involved. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm just a bit suspicious this is all kind of happening around one of the biggest events in the school calendar. And after hearing the whisper of soon, Harold tomorrow, I'm just kind of like, well, this is also happening tomorrow.
Let's see
I
what's
no
up.
longer believe in coincidences. I'm very paranoid, and I'm just going to kind of ask around about scheduling and particularly about who will be involved from a faculty perspective.
Awesome. So for Joe, can you give me, it'd be a social test to just get a vibe. You'll get information regardless. This is just seeing how much you can get away with. Charm makes the most sense because it's like buddying up and being like, hey, what's up? I know you've mostly
Abrasive as fuck.
kind of a dick. So persuasion, I think, is what you're best at, right?
Yeah, but not by much. Like, there's no, like, well,
What's your
actually,
other
by a
one?
fair bit, but
Intimidation?
Persuasion? No, I'm more persuasion. I'm pretty much entirely persuasion, but I can't really see how I would be persuading people.
Yeah, that's my thought. Because people are happy to talk. It's just you going,
Yeah.
like, kind of asking weird questions and getting ready.
Yeah, and it is weird questions without it seeming weird. I mean, I'm happy to make the charm roll and,
You could also
and
do
it just
stealth
be...
and just be behind bushes looking in at people and seeing what they're
I'm
talking
also
about.
not stealthy.
Maybe just
I
go
am
for
too large to be stealthy.
You can go for charm, and you'll get some information regardless. It must be, you just can't get away with a ton over the day. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not crazy. It's a decent chunk. It's up to you. You won't get a ton from the success, I don't think. It's more just the...
What would happen if I push this one?
Well, for odd, you can't luck it afterwards. If you push it and fail, it's close to fumbling. I will say that is someone spotting you and chasing you off campus, or like looking to be like, hey, you! I need to talk with you. One of the detectives or something.
Yeah, definitely not pushing that one then, because I think we'll need to be back here. That is a lot of luck.
Is it? It's like,
nah.
Hey, 12's a decent.
12's not.
It's a decent hit.
Hey, I got
A decent chunk, but we're good. I'm gonna luck it. I want to know shit.
Okay. All right. I'll give you a cold bits of information then. So for one, general vibe is very excited. There are a few beats. Generally, everyone's excited, and you also know that almost every student and pretty much every professor is going to be there as well. It's kind of an opportunity for the professors to like cut loose a little bit as well. There are going to be some chaperoning, for lack of a better word, but this is like a university. It's not a high school. So kids are allowed to young adults are allowed to go wherever they want and say things. It is a ticketed event. Over 5 cents a ticket, but outsiders are welcome as dates. You have to be a student to buy the tickets, though.
I'm gonna buy 4 tickets.
Yep, you can absolutely do that. Attendance is, fancy dress or like formal attire is mandatory, although they are also allowing people to come in appropriately themed get-ups, which is like Arctic expeditions. So like fur parkas and things are going to be allowed. That was the subject of much debate amongst the cheer committee. They have since decided it would just be more fun if they do it. There is not to be alcohol given its prohibition, but it's a known secret on campus that there will be. Formally, people are allowed to start arriving from 4 p.m. in the Robert Carter Memorial Hall, and dancing and the actual thing will kick off at 6 as it heads in towards the evening. You will learn that Professor Harold has actually requested to be there in a sort of a looking on position and seeing what's going on. So he is going to be there. You will also see at one point Robert Block heading up and purchasing a number of tickets. He'd buy like 8 or so. So more than enough for the little group of them to all be there. It sounds like they will be making an appearance. Lastly, for one, your roommate and Katie's twin Violet is on the committee and oversaw a lot of it, and you'll see her throughout the day, like setting things up and making preparations. Is there anything else? There is going to be, you hear a couple of the guards, because there's always like security on campus moving around, talking about getting in some extras on the day. So there's going to be like some backup. Just, they're not expecting anything terrible, but just general, like kids are rowdy and they want to be able to keep an eye. Because like normally, it's a college campus, half the kids aren't there because they don't have classes. There's going to be everyone and dates. They're going to need some extra people to just keep an eye on things, make sure stuff doesn't get out of hand. Jim?
I have a slightly odd question. This might be just completely off kilter, but is this one of those events when you are expected to bring dates?
Yes.
Because it just occurred to me that it genuinely might be tough for all the weirdo possessed folks to get dates genuinely.
It's not mandatory, but most people absolutely would. This is the first big social event of the year. This is the one which, if you're new at school, it's where you get to talk to a lot of people. A lot of fraternities will have like presences here and be kind of no one will miss this, really. It's going to be a big event. Maybe some like people who are really like uninterested in social stuff will, but almost everyone will make an appearance. And if you're living on campus, if you're in one of the dormitories, which most kids are, you're not going to be able to avoid it because the party's going to inevitably spread to the dormitories and then you're involved. There's also some kids that don't want to pay that are just going to be kind of like hanging out on the quad drinking and shooting the shit. So it's going to be everywhere. And also starts at 4. People are probably going to be tearing around on bicycles and things from midday.
Gotcha.
So it's you. Chaz, what's your strategy for checking in on Professor Harold? Is it going to the house or are you just looking around on campus? What's your plan?
Yeah, if I know where he lives.
You have his address. It's in the
Just kind of want to watch his house. That'd be excellent. Because if he's out in the campus, he's got his professorial face on. He's playing his ruse. I want to see the real man. I want to see the man behind the mask.
Awesome.
What's he like at home?
Do you want to
We would have told you though that he hasn't been seen around his home in a while.
Yeah, or it's very
that's right. Yeah,
sporadic.
you
He
did say
has done it once or twice, but it's very he's definitely not sleeping there every night.
I'm gonna watch this home for a while, and if I get the sense he's not coming home, I'll see if there's an easy way in.
Do you want to make a stealth roll?
No, but I will.
Well, no, you can go something else. The default strategy would be like lurking somewhere and watching. Is there anything else you want to argue?
Yeah, I think I am just hiding in the bushes, watching the house for a few hours at least.
Okay.
I don't know if that's spotting hidden.
It's not as a spot hidden. It's more the stealth is the dominant
That's the
part
hard
of
part.
that thing.
Yeah.
You're just watching a door.
I'll give it a red hot go.
Go for it.
4 points.
That's not
Enjoy.
Okay. So a couple things. One, as you head there, you will see Professor Wilmarth departing with like a luggage thing, like a day bag, and his little Bitsy, the little dog that he's got with him, is going ape shit around him, and he is leaving. He's planning to get out of town. You see him like hail a taxi, and you'll hear him say like, to the train station. He's planning to dip, and from being there, you don't see anyone following him. You also
Fantastic.
now know that Wilmarth's home is unattended and is right across the road from Professor Harold. So if you wanted to, you could jimmy the lock. Again, it's actually reasonably well secured, and try and get in if you want to risk breaking something. Otherwise, you can just kind of lurk along the side with your newspaper.
No. I was going to lurk in there to see if I can see him leave or enter, but I've seen him go to the train station.
Sorry, this is Professor Wilmarth.
Oh,
Not
Wilmarth.
Harold. Wilmarth, who's
Yeah,
across the
okay,
road, who
gotcha.
had the previous experience, leaves. He's right across, so you could break into his house and look
Yeah.
at Harold's.
No, okay. Yeah, in that case. Yeah, I was going to start at Harold, but we'll have a quick look in Wilmarth, and then that's the behind place to watch Harold's.
Okay. It's fairly well secured if you have locksmithing or something. Otherwise, if you're willing to just break it, he's not home and won't be for a few days, you could just give me a strength roll to just bust in the back door.
I think I've used mechanical repair to open locks in the past,
Yeah, it's kind of like hinges and things. I can pay it.
but yeah, I'll give that a go.
Go for it. Make a mechanical repair roll.
But if this fails, I'm happy to.
Hey.
Yeah, no.
You get to the back, it's reasonably, it's actually pretty thorough. He's done a good job protecting it, but you find you can, you just get some of like the bars off, and you've got time at this point. You're keeping an eye on things, but you spend like, 30 minutes or so getting it off, and then you get in the window, help yourself inside. It's kind of a weird layout. He's cleaned everything up before leaving, and like there's very little food in the fridge or anything. But from here, you can head to the front where he's already got a chair pulled up against the window so that you can like crack the curtain and look straight across at Harold's. And from here, you monitor the comings and goings. Time passes, and for most of the day, you don't see anyone coming until as evening falls and you're sort of settled in, bouncing a ball against the wall or something. I don't know what you do as you're killing time. You see a car pull up, and it's the same one Gibbons has been driving at several events. It's sort of like one of the front wheels is a bit stuffed from your previous escapades. It pulls up, there's a beat, and then another one following it arrives just behind. Getting out, you see Gibbons, Block, Professor Harold, Clarissa Thurber, and Jason Trent. Laszlo does not appear to be in attendance, nor Noakes.
But the rest of the gang is here.
They head to the front door. You see Harold unlock it and then step aside as all the students flood inside. Just before he closes it, you see Harold looking straight across the road towards Wilmart's, but he doesn't spot you in the window, and they all head inside.
Oh shit.
Do you head over closer, or do you want to try and get a look? Or are you just keeping tabs?
Dude.
I mean, if they leave again, you then definitely know they've all gone. And you can snoop.
Yeah, I like
wanna
that.
know what they're
I'll watch.
talking about. Oh.
Me too, but that's so
Just-
disastrous if they're all here and they all see me on campus.
You're fast, right? You can piss bolt.
I mean, Joe, just look within yourself and you will know what they're talking about.
Yeah, look, I know what they're talking about. Alex knows what they're talking about.
Yeah, no.
Get the car, hotwire it, back it up, slam it through the door of the house.
Do like
Just
that.
take them all out at once. Man, if I already had the gasoline.
I think, based on everything that's happened so far, now that Chaz knows the detective may be on this, I think the cards are just stacked against him. That's not a phrase. Cards are stacked? What am I trying to say? Dice are stacked?
is
I don't know. Deck is stacked. Thank you.
Deck.
You're
You're
fucking
right.
stacked, mate. Look at you.
So I think
that's
you've got to
dodge.
play it safe. I think
Okay.
it's just going to watch and wait for them to leave. But is there anything interesting to be found in Wilmarth's house?
Yeah, having a snoop around, you can make a spot hidden roll. He seems to have tidied things up. You like go along snooping around, just having a look. You find like some personal books. He's a literature professor. They are some of the dullest things you've ever seen. There's a whole shelf on grammar, which is super cool. But then there's also like, you know, history and things. There's bits and pieces. Honestly, maybe Katie would like find something here, but honestly, you're bored senseless. You don't know what the dude does for fun. On a
Yeah, I'll
whim,
let that go.
you do check the section where Katie mentioned him like getting the ring from. You managed to like dimmy it open, but the ring appears to have been taken with him. That would have been kind of fun to find, but nah, it's not there anymore, so that's a bit of a bummer. You wait for a while, and by the time night falls, they're in there for a while talking, and then eventually you see one of the engines start, and you like hurry back to the thing, you realize they're beginning to leave, and when they come out, a lot of them have draped over their arms like bags that you might take a suit to be dry cleaned in, and they are splitting up into the two cars, all of them except for Harold, who is staying in the house. And then the two cars will turn around and depart.
Not good. Suit bags. Each of them had one.
Yep. You could follow either one of the cars if you wanted to get a taxi or something. Otherwise, you can stay here and continue to watch Harold through the night.
I'll keep watching Harold.
Okay, awesome.
Did Harold leave as well? Or
No,
just-
Harold
he's
stayed in the
dead.
house. Okay, all right, you settle in and Len said if anything. All right, meanwhile, Katie, you're a bit ahead. You've gotten a first pass on this book. Do you want to start on another one, or do you want
Let's
to
do it.
Or do you want to dive into any? If you wanted to have a chance of doing any of these spells, you'd need to start studying them now.
You know, I am interested by that Elder Sign spell, but I think that ultimately the magic part of this is just not why Katie is quite as intrigued as more
Okay.
than the information. I'd like to start in the narcotic archives.
Okay, awesome. All right, so you begin to read through it. It is a series of like 5 bound manuscripts collected together. You settle in. The original was written in classical Greek, which Sebastian, if you could get your hands on, would be useful. Unfortunately, the Miskatonic University only has the translated copy, but something to look for in future, possibly. You settle in and begin to study. Seb, you're a bit behind at this point. You're still just finishing off the French one.
You put it down and just like look at Katie and be like, "Don't read that one."
That one's weird. They're all weird. That one's super weird.
I also
Katie,
say
are you
that-
planning on
It's
reading
weird
through the
and
night?
gross.
Yes, I am planning on reading through the night. I am planning on burning midnight oil. I am planning on putting my health very much second.
Okay, because I will say, at this point, as soon as you get this one looking at, the skim will take you through to tomorrow morning. For Seb, if you want to read another one, it will take you through to tomorrow midday, and you'll need to burn through the night at this point.
If I rest again, will it
It'll take
pretty
you through
much be
tomorrow
like,
afternoon.
"That's fine.
Okay.
I'm fine with that."
Alright.
I would rather be rested for a dance.
Okay, no worries. Sorry, Jim, did you want to clarify something?
Yeah, so I've got these tomes full of all this arcane information. I just want to flag that Katie has her journal out filled with all her notes and scratchings, and she's like writing in all these arcane symbols and going through and basically transposing some information. I'm not trying to like copy this. I'm not trying to get around the very strict rules that Armitage had, but it's more like I kind of like the idea that Katie is effectively building her own tome as she goes through her adventures.
Yeah.
And it's more of her scratchings, her notes, things like that.
Sure. You can make minor adjustments. As soon as you get a notebook out, one of the professors watching over you will take a lie. At this point, it's been swapped out for Professor Rice has left. He had study to do. Armitage comes in briefly, and then you meet Professor Francis Morgan, who works in archaeology. He's a hot young Indiana Jones professor, and he's super cool. He comes in, he doesn't have a jacket on. If the seat wasn't occupied, he'd turn it backwards. And he's very practical. And as soon as he sits down, he starts to talk about experiences that he kind of like wants to talk a bit because he doesn't get to. Everyone else in the little cabal is either Wilmarth or old. And so it's kind of cool to meet people that read firsthand. He'll start talking to you about like, you know, hey, I heard you guys have had like a run-in with one of these creatures. That's amazing. I'd love to talk to you about it. I myself have dealt with one of these strange turned men down in a town to the north of here. Very, very strange, but ultimately deal withable. It's exciting stuff. But you know, it's none of it's Migo related. and he seems to be kind of trying to shoot the shit.
The wild cast of characters that are part of the Miskatonic University's secret organization. I will give him a lot of cool.
And just try to
great.
keep going.
Yeah.
That
So
said,
what was his name?
He is Professor Francis Morgan. That said, every time you write something down, he will check it. For all of his bravado, he is also fairly diligent about the security of these terms. So, Katie, you can't transcribe directly into your journal, but he'll give you a fresh reams of paper, and as you're writing in them, he'll be checking them as you go through.
Yep, absolutely.
can
That
copy
makes
them.
total sense. He can go over anything. I mean, yeah, I don't think I don't know what he doesn't want me to record so much. I think it's almost
more just them
unintelligible
knowing what it
notes
is.
the way that I do it. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. All right, so you get stuck into that. Joe, you've gotten a sense for the ball and you wanted to try and get some gasoline. There's no roll required for that. You can just do that. Jerry cans are legal. So you can just, at one point you'll walk down to the local station and fill up. You just buy some gasoline, and that's not that expensive either. So you fill up a jerry can or two if you want it. Problem is, actually, do you want to give me a strength roll just because they're... Actually, yeah, let's do a strength roll, and that could be how many you can get.
How much I get, yeah. Where am I? Down here. Oh, it's straight up the top, isn't it? Yes. Blah. Yeah.
Yeah, done. You can get 2 jerry cans. You fill it up to the gunnels, hoist them up, and then you can begin walking them back to McCarthy's place where you can secure them for the evening. So as we go into the night, Seb, I presume you've immediately swapped over to Nameless Cults, right? Yep.
We can deal with this now or later, but at what point does Katie, if at all, mention the McCarthy? And also, I assume we are relaying information to each other about what's in, like, surface, like, there's spells in here, this seems about necromancy.
I agree.
If Katie tells Seb that there are some spells in the book that she's looking at, he may take a look, not at the contents, but at the spells. I care not about learning mythos, I care about spells.
So the one that Katie has already read had a number of what seemed to be like calling towards these grander creatures, and also the Elder Sign, and then the
Elder
majority of the
Sign's the
spells.
one I'm interested in.
Yep. Then in that case, if you wanted to sit down and begin studying that, you could.
I want both. I want to know what's in the
At
Nameless
this point,
Cults, but yeah.
You would need to go straight into the Elder Sign if you wanted to try and learn that by tomorrow afternoon, and you would probably be burning through the night to do it. So it'd be a con roll.
Honestly, given that at some point I'm already losing a D10 on top of everything else, if I don't have to study this book to find the fact that there is a spell in it, then I will start looking at the spell instead of studying, and we'll come back to Nameless Cults later.
Okay, so you're gonna get out. It was of evil sorceries. It's also interesting, the one that has your family name in it.
Yeah.
When you hand that one over and you talk about it, Dr. Morgan, Professor Morgan, also a doctor, is in the room. What do the two of you say as you hand that information across?
I will personally, specifically as I hand the book across, I'll say there's some things you'll probably want to look through here, particularly in the margins. There's a lot of information that I think this is a personal copy, you see, and also and I'll flip to the page that has the McCarthy name written on it, and just place my finger on the name McCarthy and not say anything. Slide that over.
I will read that passage, and then I will flick to the spell. I am distinctly not trying to get mythos information out of this book, because I'm like, this is the last book I read has made me go, not sure I want to look through more than I can. That was a little much.
No, I get you. Okay, so Seb and Katie are both staying up overnight if you plan to read this, learn the spell and read the book. Chaz and Joe, what are you doing? Are you resting? Chaz, you can sleep because you're kind of keeping an eye out. Like, I can assume because you've not been doing a ton, you can have been having micro naps in the chair. Like, you're fine to just stay there unless you want to do something else pointed. Joe, do you plan to rest?
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely resting. Probably having terrible dreams, creepy dreams. Sleeping but not resting, I guess, is how it goes for Joe these days.
Yeah.
But just to avoid the con rolls.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Seb and Katie, can you both please give me a Constitution roll?
Absolutely.
fools.
Coming right up. Here we go.
Oh,
Oh my god.
nice.
Ah, beautiful.
Okay.
For
Genuinely,
my second night up.
I don't like.
Caffeine.
I'm glad that's a hard, because I'm not sure Seb would actually have coped if
I
it
agree.
was
And with
even
the
a regular.
wounds and things, I was considering doing a penalty or something, but that definitely covers it. That's awesome. Okay, so with that also, you don't have the penalties, so we're going to do a few. Firstly, Katie. Actually, sorry, Chaz and Joe, what are your intents for the morning? One thing might be, if you are planning on going, I know you bought tickets. If you're, Joe, could you mark off 20 cents
Sure.
for the tickets? I'm joking.
I don't know how much money I've got.
You've got tons. Your credit rating will be like
I've got
several
20 cents.
One might be if you guys want to get apparel, if you want to get costumes or gowns or
Well, we're not
suits
just
or whatever.
gonna like yank shit from Seb's
Yep, or you can do that.
cupboards.
I can just
Just
assume you.
whoever's got clothing here.
If costumes are allowed, that's our chance to kind of go in incognito. If we get like, big coats with low hoods and snow
Yeah.
goggles.
That's a good idea. Actually, we'll hit up some thrift shops.
Yep.
We might
okay, that's
actually.
a
You know
good
what
idea.
we'll probably do? We'll duck back to the library, and take a moment to exchange information with our compatriots,
Mm-hmm.
and basically just say, like, you go back in and just say, look, we know something's going to happen at the dance. We'll sort out our stuff for that, and receive information, give information, because this could be an opportunity if there's anything crossing over between what you know and what we know.
Awesome. Yep. No, I'll assume you've all touched base then. Unless Chaz, are you
just,
staying and watching, or are you going to reconvene?
No,
or
my intention was just to it wasn't to watch Harold intently and write down everything he does. It's just keep an eye on to see if he does anything outlandish. I think I'm happy with what I've got.
Okay.
So I'm happy to go back to the library. Yeah, so we're gonna need something to go to the ball in.
Chaz actually had an awesome idea. Is it?
I
They're
did.
doing
That was my
costumes.
idea.
It was your idea. They're doing costumes and like Arctic Explorer costumes for you guys. Like you could have goggles or hoods and stuff that covers your face. So
Ski masks, just incognito.
We're all together with this conversation?
Yeah, we came back to the library.
I will say Morgan is here as well, so he will, because you're being just while you're there, as long as you're there.
Okay.
That's really clever. That's a great idea.
Costuming is all well and good, but these are still relative. Might be speaking out of turn here. These are still relatively fancy events. Like it specifically at the beginning of this, you were like penguin suits and polar furs. It's
Or
dress up, but it's fancy. Dave, is that correct?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
I think you have the option. You can go fancy or you can go dress up. That's
The
the impression I got.
default is fancy. The full dance is always a formal affair because of the theming and because of the great pride the Miskatonic University has taken in the recently departed Antarctic expedition.
Which is going
this
super
has had an
well.
extra. Which is going great. Let's check the time right about now. I think things are still okay.
I mean, so I did mention that the house we're staying at, my family really only uses for debutante season. There's a wardrobe full of relatively nice clothing, and certainly my mother has some furs. So,
As long as,
think
we can
might-
get some ski masks so we can go incognito, I think that's the main consideration here.
or like a hat and goggles would be like you can just pop them on when, especially for Chaz. I mean, I don't know if that's something that you two wanted to do, but if there's somebody who looks like they might be looking a little too closely, you can always just go a little incognito.
I have a suspicion that, with the exception of Chaz, if the four of us turn up to the school dance and don't make too much of an obvious nuisance of ourselves, they will quietly escort us out at some point, or if they can't do that, they will escort us at the end of the evening. I don't think they're going to make a fuss during the actual ball.
No, I agree for the three of us. I think.
Let's worry about that when it happens
I-
first,
yeah.
getting in. So we
Chaz
got
might need.
Regardless, you can. I mean, Joe and Chaz, we may need to do some minor alterations, but we have attire.
Excellent. All right. Well, we got tickets. We got something to go. We got something to dress up in. Guess the only other thing we need is someone to go with. I mean, I didn't get a chance to ask anyone. Katie, do you think you could see if Violet wants to go with me?
Oh, fantastic. I think Katie actually goes like, and then kind of
Joey's just gonna straight up elbow Chaz at this point. Like she's just gonna.
Seb will immediately just turn around.
Katie, take sanity loss.
Yeah, like Joey's just gonna just gonna elbow Chaz in the ribs at this point.
You know what? I think Violet will be there. In fact, I think Violet might be in a few places because Katie's definitely not coming to the dance.
Oh, I like it.
Well, in that
Great way
case,
to have an
That's
alibi.
a
Anyone says
great
you're not allowed to
idea.
be here.
And then
You
that
champion.
It's fine.
in that
Yep.
case, because Seb is fully aware of how much Joe and Chaz rub each other the wrong way, he will immediately turn and go, well then, Miss Violet Wilkes, would you like to attend the ball with me?
From going from no dates to
Two.
Specifically, like,
You're fine. Technically, I asked first.
I'm gonna at this point I think Joe's just gonna leave and just like clap Chaz on the shoulder and be like, yeah, well done. Well done, buddy.
I'll tell you what, we'll all get inside together and we'll figure this out. And I think she'll go back to kind of grabbing her books, but then like shoot like a glance at Chaz or something that's like, yeah, okay, cool, yeah, this is nice, let's do that.
Yay! Okay.
Seb notes and is like, my work here is done.
Matchmaker, hell yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Love it. So what do people want to do for the morning then? Students are already, it's early now, but students are already beginning to like dick around in the lawn. You see people just getting excited and like, basically pre-gaming. What do people want to do for the morning?
What I probably would have actually done on the way to the library very early in the morning before people were out was kind of secret those jerry cans of gasoline
Oh, good
around
idea.
the dance hall, like around the hall where the dance is going to be, just kind of in like hidden spots, probably one near each entrance, or if there's like a basement window. I've had not great luck with basement windows in the past, but
So I will need to roll for that. It is being fairly well secured at the moment.
Okay.
There's a chance it gets found. So Joe's gonna go in and secure those. Chaz, what do you want to do for the morning?
My best.
Yeah. Do you want to get the costumes and bring everything?
Yeah, that's
to
what I'm
them?
thinking. I mean, that was my idea. I'm going to make sure the costumes are going to work and anything else we need to pick up, apart from the fancy clothes.
And
If
to
we need
flag-
to go for goggles and steam masks, that's what I'll do.
And it's Katie's gonna just come dressed as Violet, so that's just like
Yeah.
you just need a dress or something. Is everyone else wearing ski goggles and things to obscure identity?
I'll just go as a person. I feel
Lord,
like I'm
no.
less of a.
Well, the problem with you, Joe, is you've got quite serious burns and things. So
yeah,
like
I'll wear one of those
Parker
like
might.
little hat things.
Oh,
Those
yeah.
little beaded hat.
Yeah,
Like, it's the 30s.
Okay,
like,
so you're
a
also
Or,
just
like,
dressing in formal.
If you're doing furs, they would have like furred hat, like fascinator
exactly.
type things as well.
Just
As I said, my
some
mother would have
headwear.
furs, so she
makeup
would
and
have.
headwear.
Okay, so Katie
Absolutely.
and Joe are just coming as they're coming as
We're just
they're not
people.
coming to yes disguised, no, not in like full polar outfit. Seven Chaz, and I was like, well, we'll pick up next session with the dance. So we'll get I want full descriptions then. I'm just getting
Oh, okay.
big important part. Seven Chaz, you coming in formal or are you gonna try and disguise like goggles to hide
I'm going to
identity?
like formal with Seb's fancy clothes, but with the
goggles
maybe
is
a ski
on top.
mask or a goggles or a low hood or something. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, and
If
Seven.
anyone can pull it off, a Chaz can.
Oh yeah.
Hell yes.
And McCarthy has never gone to the ball as anyone other than themselves. I don't intend to start doing that now.
This is gonna go
Oh,
so
yeah.
badly.
Consequences be
Hell
damned.
yes.
Oh, like,
We're stacking up sanity loss.
yeah, no. Seb is going full, like, again, I think I shared some pictures to you four, but Gary Cooper, full penguin suit, just like
Amazing.
slightly tousled hair, just the whole like real formal. He is, yeah, he's. I don't think there's any way he can really disguise who he is in a way that is reasonable. So he's just going to go and try and avoid being like obviously
be the
seen.
most
But
him.
Seb knows how to dress well,
Awesome.
and
Awesome.
white tie is white tie.
All right. So then Chaz
I'll
will
be
go.
in a dress, so nobody will recognize me anyway.
Chaz is going to go and get the costumes and bring them to you guys so you can get changed at the library, then I presume, while Joe goes and plants explosives around the exterior.
Just gasoline, just some jerry cans of gasoline.
Meanwhile, Katie and Seb are going to try and commit the last few tomes to memory. For our final rolls, Joe, can you give me a stealth? I think makes the most sense, or something similar. Penalty is just going to be it's further away rather than you fail it. It's just that you go, I can't get away with this.
And before I do that, I will also siphon some out of them into like 2 smaller receptacles, like 2 little glass bottles.
Totally makes sense. And that's like
Molotovs.
Yeah.
Yep. So go ahead and make a stealth roll.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You find there's like a box that's been built in for like, electrical something, and you're able to like get it open, or like, no, there'd be like a shed towards the back for supplies and things. You're able to get it open, get the jerry cans inside, hide things. I'll also say with a hard success, you guys had a shotgun if you want to secure that there as well.
Yes,
and then you all know that the shed has supplies if needed.
What I would ideally like to do with the jerry cans is have them at either, if there's 2 entrance exits, like front and back exit, have them like hidden under the exits, or like in a bush, like half buried near the entrance and exits.
Hell yeah. Here's what I reckon. So one's the shed towards the back, and you can have the shotgun, and there's some like clubbing instruments there, so you just know that there's some like improvised weaponry if needed.
Yeah.
The other one is under the huge Copley Memorial Bell Tower, which is this massive one in the center of the quad. You can have it like secured around a corner and in there hidden away. Well, no one will maybe like the bottom opens up for security and things, and you're able to get it in there behind some bushes and things. So that one's towards the front, a short jog away to get to that. Perfect. Chaz, you head back to the McCarthy's and root around for costumes. We'll get descriptions of what those look like next time. You gather everything together and head off. Is there anything final you want to do? Any rolls you want to make or anything in addition? Awesome. I presume you grab a club or something for yourself just if things go sour. Yeah, awesome.
Completely random. I did probably over the like I want to say near Victorian, and that's not what I'm trying to get at. What's an idea? Art Deco.
Yep.
Art Deco fireplace is the family crest of the McCarthys, and behind that crest, which is on a shield, are 2 ceremonial sabers.
We'll say fighting sword is a separate skill, so you'll need to roll with that. But
just there are
just
like
club someone with it.
Yeah, I don't know. They're not sharp. They are ceremonial. They are probably affixed to the shield, but like, for picture painting, there is a shield with some sabers or something.
Well, so you grab some.
Everybody who passes it looks at it and is just like, nah.
This is why it's advantageous to be in Katie's position, because if you have no points in fighting brawl, then you may as well grab the sword.
Or the shotgun or whatever else you've been grabbing.
Exactly.
All right. Until you fumble and slice yourself open.
It's about to happen. So Chaz heads back and Joe gather in the library as upstairs. Katie, you were looking at the narcotic manuscripts.
That's the one.
Can you please give me, given this is 15th century and quite old, I will need an English language roll.
Thou art therefore 16th.
And with a hard, you absolutely do it. So this...
That's too often extreme, mate.
Yeah, would you like an extreme?
Extreme won't do it. The hard is actually, because it's so old, that absolutely covers it, so you will be able to get the full context of what you are reading. This tome talks about the distant past of this place we call Earth. It talks about, what happened before the continents reshaped, and also talks about an alien species that came here long ago and seeded before man other things, but then what would go on to become man, and basically manipulated the past to, or manipulated events to lead to today, in what is kind of just a grand and tremendous experiment. It is not the Migo. It appears to be something else that have been tied to it, although there is reference to these things having some sort of clash with others, and with further study you might be able to get insight into that. You're not sure if it's Migo or something else. There is a spell inside here. It is a contact winged thing, and it seems to be able to summon something from far, far, far away. You're going to lose a D8 of sanity. You're going to gain 3 Cthulhu Mythos, and finally, with a, not panic, but with a sort of sense of dread, nice on the one, you will note that Contact Winged Thing, when it was cast previously, this was originally written in classical Greek, so south. It talks of something traveling a great distance in a very brief amount of time, and when it arrived, it had moved so quickly that it was still shaking the ice from its bulbous wings. Whatever this came from, it came from the distant polar south.
I need to get this news to the expedition. Maybe after the dance.
Yeah, it's just a little suspicion. So this does as well. Finally, Seb, can you
Sorry,
give
just quickly,
me?
David, can you remind me of the Cthulhu Mythos
Yes,
scoring,
three points. Finally, Seb, can you make an intelligence test to commit this to memory and time?
Yeah, come on.
You can push it.
What's pushing it?
Risk of sanity loss. Actually, no. Pushing it is you get the spell, and you think you've got it mastered, and there is every chance that you do not.
Only 8 points.
Yeah, but I have like 20.
Oh. 20? I have 12.
Well,
It's not
I have
a competition. It's not a competition. If it was, I'd be winning.
Nah.
I mean, 60%. What's the chances of you not successfully pushing it?
Hush you.
It's 60 and then 60 again. So it's 120% chance of success.
That's not how percentages work, mate. If I were to fail getting this in memory now,
You can return to study it again.
can
later.
I try again? Is what I'm asking. If I push, or
Yes,
is this like
it just
no?
won't be. It just won't be in time for the dance.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm gonna push it because I reckon I'm gonna need my luck, especially
Awesome.
given that I might die. So let us push that.
Come on, come on. Show me that red.
Oh.
Okay.
I think I've got it.
Go ahead
push it?
and add to your character sheet. There should be a section for spells known. Just write Elder Sign, and I will tell you in advance that this is a mark which you can inscribe that should repel creatures and entities of the mythos. You believe it will take you about an hour to inscribe it correctly, and you'll need some, like, you can mark it in anything. Lead seals, carve it into rock. You can forge it into steel or something. It's however you make the shape is up to you. And maybe put an asterisk next to it, Art, so we all remember that something might go amiss when you first cast it.
That's fair.
Very excited. Okay.
I am too.
All right. Katie puts down the book and looks outside. Well, no, you can't because it's a window. Morgan will take you to go and meet your friends, and the room is secured. And when you look outside, you'll see that students are beginning to gather out on the lawn at sort of 2 p.m. heading towards 4, and already people are excited for the dance to begin. People are lining up in their best outfits, excited for the evening events, and soon the 4 of you will change your garb and make your way down there to mingle amongst them, not dissimilar to how the imposters have mingled amongst your own. You'll have to find out what it is that they are attempting to do. You've stashed gasoline, you've stashed firearms, and one of you is armed with a powerful and definitely accessible mythos spell. You have more knowledge than you've ever had before, and if this doesn't work, you just don't know what you'll do next. We'll pick all that up next session when we return. Thank you for watching, and thank you all so much for playing. See you on the flippy.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.